December 2022, Romanian authorities raid the Tate compound near Bucharest. Andrew and Tristan get locked up on suspicion of human trafficking, forming an organized crime group and related offenses. They spend months in custody, then move to house arrest and judicial control. Prosecutors later formally charged them. The case includes allegations of exploiting women for online content. Andrew faces additional SA allegations in the Romanian file. The indictment hits procedural problems. In late 2024, a court sends it back to prosecutors. Travel restrictions get eased in early 2025. The brothers fly to Florida. Romanian conditions are later fully lifted in 2026 while investigations continue and expand. More trafficking, money laundering, etc. They've gone back and forth between countries since. Meanwhile, the UK side grows. Bedfordshire Police and the CPS authorize new charges. First wave in 2025, 21 charges total. SA, assault, trafficking, controlling prostitution. Then, in July 2026, 38 more charges involving alleged victims from 2010 to 2017, combined a total 59 counts. Andrew faces multiple SA accounts, trafficking, assault, plus indecent images and extreme pornography related charges. Tristan faces SA and trafficking counts. They deny everything and call it political. Then, on July 18th, 2026, U.S. Marshals arrest both brothers in Miami on a UK extradition warrant. Timing is dramatic, right as Andrew is about to appear at a bare-knuckle boxing event. On July 20th, they had their initial appearance in federal court. They contest extradition, held without bond so far, and a detention hearing for August 13 to decide if they will stay locked up while the process plays out. UK has until mid-September to submit full materials. The final extradition decision will ultimately set with the State Department. From inside the federal detention center, though, in Miami, messages start flowing via the lawyers. Andrew's account posts about the highest security unit, no commissary, limited contact, broken faucet, drinking shower water described as dirty and brown, stomach issues, and a neighbor called a cannibal who screams throughout the night. Lawyer Joseph McBride backs the isolation complaints, calls solitary torture for unconvicted people, says Tristan has lost weight quickly, and describes filthy cells with cockroaches, bad food, and warns the brothers have a target on their backs because of the nature of the allegations. Compares the jailhouse reaction to Epstein-level heat. McBride says they meet frequently and use a Pony Express system. Lawyers write down what Andrew once said and post it. No phone in the unit. There's one protester outside saying that the Tates are heroes. Videos and posts confirm it's basically just him, and Andrew posts things from inside. I can feel every word. The online reaction has been pure meme fuel. Massive follower count versus one guy with a cardboard. But there's talk of a big turnout planned for August 13th. The PR spokesperson that he's had since his arrest in Romania has came out on Piers Morgan to say she's stepped away from him. The lawyer, McBride, has been whining all over Twitter about how they're mistreated, and a new law firm in Miami has joined the team, Jeffrey Epstein's law firm to be exact. So that's interesting. And there were things unsealed for the hearings. So let's look at those really quick, shall we? Okay, so this is the unsealed document for out of the UK that they sent the United States for reason for them to be extradited. And it doesn't list everything. It just lists like one crime each. But let's go over this with Tristan. Okay, so this is the cover sheet. It just asks some things. We're not going to go over all that. Complaint for provisional arrest with view towards extradition. I, the undersigned Assistant United States Attorney, being duly sworn, state on information and belief that the following is true and correct. In this matter, I represent the United States in fulfilling its treaty obligation to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and North Ireland. There is an extradition treaty in force between the United States and the United Kingdom. extradition treaty between the government of the United States of America and the government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and North Ireland. Now, there has been people on Tate's side screaming all over the internet about how dare you extradite an American citizen, as if they're also not UK citizens who were born in the or they were born in the US, but they grew up as adults in the UK and have dual citizenship. And the United States extradites American citizens to the UK when they ask for them, when they've committed crimes there. It's not like this has never happened before. So it's kind of silly. And related exchange of letters as amended by the instrument as contemplated by Article 3 of the Agreement on Extradition between the United States of America and the European Union, signed June 25th, 2003, as to the application of the extradition treaty between the government of the United States of America and the government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, signed March 31st, 2003. In accordance with Article 12 of the treaty, the government of the United Kingdom has asked the United States for the provisional arrest of Tristan Tate with a view towards his extradition. According to the information the government of the United Kingdom has provided, Tate is accused of R word in violation of Section 1 of the Sexual Offenses Act of 2003 and assault occasioning actual bodily harm in violation of Section 47 of the Offenses Against the Person Act of 1861. These offenses were committed within the jurisdiction of the United Kingdom on January 19th, 2024. Senior District Judge Paul Goldspring of Westminster Magistrates Court signed a warrant for Tate's arrest. The warrant remains valid and enforceable. Based on its investigation, the UK alleges the following facts in support of its arrest warrant and provisional arrest request. Complainant reported to UK authorities on multiple occasions between April 1st, 2012 and December 6, 2013 that Tristan Tate, with whom she was in a long-term relationship with, R-worded her both V and A and assaulted her to the point of physical injury in his apartment in Luton, England. Complainant told authorities that during the specified time period, Tristan regularly choked complainant to the point she was unconscious and simultaneously penetrated her V with his P. After she would lose consciousness, Tate would forcefully slap complainant's face to wake her up, and upon waking, complainant would find that Tristan was penetrating her A with his P. Complainant conveyed that she made it clear to Tristan that she did not consent to being A penetrated while unconscious. Nonetheless, according to her, Tristan repeated this behavior multiple times over the course of more than a year and a half. Complainant also notified authorities that during one of these instances, Tristan struck her in the face, causing a black eye. She further stated that she sustained marks on her skin from being slapped by Tristan on other occasions. Complainant further alleged that during this time period, Tristan hit her with a belt on multiple occasions, which caused serious bruising and welting on her buttocks and legs. Complainant told authorities that when Tristan hit her with a belt, she would scream for him to stop, but he often would not. Complainant reported an additional incident of non-consensual S with Tristan that took place on or about December 24th, 2012. On that date, he picked complainant up from the train station and drove her to his mother's house in Luton, England. After arriving at home, Tristan pushed her on the mattress, pinned her down, and penetrated her V with his P without her consent. Tate simultaneously used his hand to hit and grab onto her buttocks approximately 5 or 6 times, causing bruising. According to authorities, complainant did not have a choice to consent, and she reported that Tristan did not check whether she consented. Complainant identified Tristan as the person who committed these offenses Based on her long-standing relationship with him, she also told authorities that she could identify him from television and social media. Article 2 of the treaty covers the offenses for which Tate's extradition is sought. According to the U.S. Marshal Service, Tate's brother is scheduled to be co-hosting a boxing event in Miami, Florida on July 18th, 2026, and on July 17th, 2026, authorities observed Tate in Miami, Florida. The government of the United Kingdom has represented that it will submit a formal request for extradition supported by the documents the treaty specifies within the time the treaty requires. Tate would likely flee if he learned of the existence of a warrant for his arrest. And so then it says, therefore, they, request a warrant be issued and that it be placed under seal. Okay, and then this one is for Andrew. According to the information the government of the United Kingdom has provided, Andrew is accused of R-word in violation of Section 1 of the Sexual Offenses Act of 2003 and assault occasioning actual bodily harm in violation of Section 47 of the Offenses Against the Person Act of 1861. These offenses were committed within the jurisdiction of the United Kingdom on January 19, 2024. Senior District Judge Paul Goldspring of the Westminster Magistrates Court signed a warrant for Tate's arrest. The warrant remains valid and enforceable. Based on its investigation, the UK alleges the following facts in support of its arrest warrant and provisional arrest request. At the time of the alleged conduct, Andrew and his brother Tristan ran an operation where females, referred to as cam girls, performed S-acts online for subscribers in exchange for money. At least some of the online content was performed in Romania. According to information provided by a complainant A, she was working in the webcam business in early 2015 when she arranged to meet with Tate at her home in Bedford, England. On an unspecified date between January and March 2015, Tate went to complainant A's home. While at complainant A's home, Tate, without consent, put his arm around her neck and placed her in a chokehold, which prevented her from breathing and caused her to lose consciousness. Over the course of the next several hours, Andrew repeatedly placed complainant A in chokeholds, releasing the holds only for brief intervals to allow her to breathe, all while P, her, V, with his P without consent. Later the same evening, complainant A and Andrew were in a bedroom when Andrew once again placed complainant A in a chokehold, thus strangling her, while he simultaneously penetrated her B with his P. According to information complainant A provided to the UK authorities, she did not consent to Andrew's actions against her. She provided to the UK authorities messages that she exchanged with him on former social media platform Twitter, now X, around the time of the alleged offenses. She communicated with Tate through his Twitter handle, Cobra Tate, which is the handle that Tate still maintains and uses on the social media platform X. Notably, on July 14th, 2026, Tate posted a photograph of him and T in front of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. from his Cobra Tate account. In addition to the allegations presented by complainant A, the UK also seeks extradition for alleged criminal conduct Andrew committed against an unrelated victim, complainant B. Complainant B told authorities she has met Tate approximately 4 or 5 times. She reported that she had consensual intercourse with Andrew in Luton, England on or around July 3rd or 4th, 2014. During intercourse, he choked her, leaving marks around her neck. On separate occasions between August 31st, 2025 and December 31st, 2025, Tate visited complainant B at her home in Manchester. According to complainant B, she and Andrew were having intercourse when he started to choke her to the point she struggled to breathe. She told authorities she was afraid he was going to kill her. The incidents left marks on her neck from where he had choked her. Complainant A said she didn't consent to the rough nature of the intercourse. Both complainant A and complainant B identified Tate to the UK authorities from social media and television as the person who committed the offenses against them. Now, this one is interesting because it's 2014 and then 2025. So I sort of wonder if that's a typo on there. But we will find out more when we do. So, how did we get here? How did we get to all this? How did we get to this place? Well, let's rewind back into the past to find out. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome if you are new. Welcome, welcome. Okay, guys, like going through this Tate stuff has been absolutely insane. Like, literally, my mind feels like mesh. I have, um, like an ungodly amount of papers lying around everywhere. Here's a pile, there's a pile up here. I mean, it is crazy. I have been going through so many videos and I have been trying to narrow things down. And there's a lot of stuff that we missed for last episode during that time. And I actually found out all kinds of stuff because I was trying to track down the Aston Martin, the Aston Martins. It's so crazy. Like, trying to piece together all of this craziness has been nuts, and I really hope that I can pull it together for this video. I don't think I've ever been so nervous and worried about a video that I've made as this one, and I'm, like, extremely late getting it out because I like to, when I do a series, get them out once a week, and this one is late because of everything that has been going on to get this video put together, and I mean, it's just crazy. But I do have a very interesting timeline, which is going to help us a lot. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so we are going to actually go back to the beginning because there's some stuff I missed. There was some stuff I was wrong about, and there's also some stuff that's just really, really interesting. So, I've got my very interesting timeline here. So, 1986, Andrew was born. 1988, Tristan was born. The parents divorced in 1997 and moved to Luton. I can't get this to pull up on screen because for some reason I have access to it on my phone, but not on the computer on any browser. But it's the New Yorker article Empire of Abuse written by Heidi Blake. So we're going to go over this first. And I'm not reading from the beginning. I'm just reading the pertinent parts where we are on the timeline. The times I struck a woman in passion, I never left a mark. The Tate's father wrote on Facebook in 2011. Super control of the human animal. They love me still. Emory Tate was a celebrated black chess master who served as a staff sergeant and a linguist in the U.S. Air Force. So he was a linguist. Okay, so that part is true, but he wasn't a linguist for the CIA, and there's no like evidence that he spoke the best Russian in the world and was, all the stuff that Andrew said. And he was in the Air Force. He met their mother, a white British woman named Eileen Ashley, on a brief posting to the UK. The couple married and moved to America, and in 1986, Andrew was born in a military hospital in Washington, D.C. Tristan came a year and a half later, followed by a sister, Janine. Andrew has described his father's influence in scores of posts, podcasts, and videos. My dad was a hero in every way. He has said, I feared my dad as if he was God himself. Emory was brilliant, charismatic, and mercurial. In 1992, he was discharged from the Air Force after being diagnosed as having conditions that interfere with military service, including narcissistic personality disorder. Back in civilian life, he was convinced that he was being monitored by the CIA and the family car was being tailed, and that he was under attack by assailants from Eastern Europe. Okay, so this is the thing. There is an extreme Eastern Europe. There are some themes that I've started noticing as I'm going through all this documentation on Andrew and his brother, and it's so crazy. And so the theme is chess. One of the themes is chess. One of the themes is uh, the Matrix. Another theme is this Eastern Europe thread that's ran through his life. And you're going to see these themes too. The world he lived in was a scary world, Andrew has said. He remembered Emory telling him, You're a Tate. They're going to come for you like they came for me. Now, I'm going to pause that right there. So, Andrew has a lot of respect for and love for his father. Okay, but he also was not treated well by his father, and his father, he acts like his father was the most amazing man in the world, and he really was sort of a like bummy loser weird guy, and he was super misogynistic. So I found this article. Oh, and the other thing that happened as I was going to go do this, the browser that I normally use, Brave browser, like, just wouldn't the StreamYard just wouldn't work in it. Like, it was just not registering anything. So I've had to switch browsers and log into everything in this browser, and then, like, all of my bookmarks, everything is in the other browser, so I have to keep moving it over, but I'm gonna go find that article. Okay, so after Tate got famous, or blown up, uh, people started looking, reporters started looking into his history, and they found weird stuff that his dad had been posting. So let's look at that. Brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate spent their preteen years in the leafy town of Goshen, Indiana. Back then, in the 1990s, the city had some 24,000 residents, plus a large Mennonite population in the surrounding rural area. There weren't many biracial families like the Tates around, though. In the not too distant past, Goshen had been a sundown town. The sons of Eileen Ashley, a white working class English woman, and Emory Tate Jr., a black military veteran and skilled chess competitor, Andrew and Tristan were surrounded by extended family growing up. They attended church with their cousins and played together at their parental grandmother's house. The American side of the Tate family is peppered with high achievers, particularly the women. The brothers' paternal grandmother, Emma Cox Tate, was an entrepreneur who set up a trucking company in the 1970s, attaining success in a male dominated industry. Andrew and Tristan's aunts include lawyers, an Ivy League academic, and a business owner who operates a successful McDonald's franchise. My mother was very much subservient to my father, which was a good thing. But in the history of the men in the Tate family, complex figures who relied on violence and competition to forge their way in the world, that explains the development of Andrew and Tristan. Beginning with an abusive grandfather who allegedly beat his children with a belt, the Tate family stories A number of them reported here for the first time help us understand how the brothers went on to build a business empire that trades in misogynistic ideas and sells toxic self help for the modern man. My mother was very subservient to my father, which was a good thing, Andrew once said in an interview. They used to have arguments, etc., and I think I learned a lot of lessons, I guess, on male and female dynamics to a degree from my childhood. In a statement, a representative for the brothers said Andrew has always celebrated the success of the women in his family and he has encouraged others to follow his example. He believes in traditional masculine values where the man's role is to support the women in achieving their goals. Elizabeth said her father, Emory Tate, was born in 1919 to a family of sharecroppers in Georgia and, according to legend, taught himself to read using discarded comic books. He ran away from home and was drafted into the Army in World War II, serving in the Red Ball Express, a trucking unit predominantly operated by Black soldiers that delivered vital supplies to Allied troops. So, this is the grandfather. He wasn't happy because he was discriminated against back then the troops were segregated, Elizabeth said. She added when he came back from the war, he took advantage of the GI Bill to help him finish high school, college, and ultimately law school. The former sharecropper found himself catapulted into the middle class, his daughter said. Emory became an attorney building a successful law practice in Chicago. Elizabeth said he once successfully defended a Black man from R word charges in front of an all white jury. I didn't understand what an accomplishment it was until I started practicing, she said. Despite his success in the city, she said her father maintained a small farm in Michigan where he would spend his weekends. One day, Emory went to a dinner near his office in Chicago where he met Emma Cox, who hailed from a more affluent biracial Southern family and had 4 children from a previous marriage. Elizabeth recounted. The pair ultimately wed and had 5 children together, including Andrew and Tristan's father, Emory Tate. And so his grandparents are biracial as well. So that kind of explains why they look so white because they have more white genes than just, you know, if his father's father was Black and so was his father's mother. But instead, it's his father's father was Black and his father's mother was white. And then in the same thing for him, his father's uh, Black and then his mother is white. So there's much more genetic genes there. So it kind of makes sense because looking at these pictures and them standing next to each other and all this stuff, I'm like, man, they're so white, you know? Not that that's any of that's a bad thing. It's something I noticed. They also divorced. So the grandparents divorced in 1996 after the elder Emory Tate became increasingly vituperative towards his wife. I have no idea what that means. I'm going to have to look that word up. While Elizabeth says that her dad was compassionate, in a 2014 post from the younger Emory's Facebook page alleged his father was the most savage man in the universe, to the extent that the son once contemplated killing him. Beating with a leather belt was all I knew, Emory Jr. wrote. So this is Andrew's father talking about his father. Expressing pride that he did not repeat the pattern of abuse in his own children. In the years after the divorce, Emma Cox Tate moved to Goshen, Indiana, where her home became the focus of the extended family. Okay, indeed, so they were told, this article was told by a friend of Emory's that he reached the status of chess grandmaster, which actually he's an international master. It's not the same thing. The highest rank of a professional player. No. So this article's wrong, but that he lacked commitment and discipline. So let me pull up well, I will just keep going, but he reached international master. It's not the same thing. He arrived at the 1987 NATO Chess Championship tournament unshowered and unshaven and lost to a Norwegian grandmaster. Emory was later stationed at RAF Chick Sands, a Cold War signals listening post in the UK, when he met a local woman, Eileen Ashley, who would become Andrew and Tristan's mother. They moved to Maryland, where Andrew and Tristan were born at the Walter Reed Military Hospital in Washington, D.C. Now, a lots of times in in interviews, people will say, "Oh, you know, Andrew was born in Chicago. You're from Chicago." He's not. He was not born in Chicago, and he's not from Chicago. I don't know, and he doesn't correct them or anything. The book suggests that so this is him getting removed from the army. The book suggests his superiors were concerned that Emory had a personality disorder and accused him of embellishing military intelligence. Okay, skipping ahead. According to his biography, Emory continued to chase his chess dreams, riding by bus to play in tournaments all over the country. He was a major figure in chess and one of the most exciting players. Not to mention, he's an extremely important icon in the Black chess community. He was known for his exciting style of chess, which was extremely aggressive. He wasn't the most skilled player, but he was daring in his attempts to create art on the chessboard. So that was a quote. Emory also taught his sons to fight from an early age. He presented them with pillows they could kick. Dad trained me, Andrew told Chess Life magazine in January 2016, and commanded me to fight without a defense, hands down, as he did. Domestically, life would, and that's also his style in boxing. So he puts his hands down, and that's where he gets the cobra. Like it's like a cobra stance. Okay. So all this like goes back to his father, which is interesting. As a 5-year-old, Andrew said once that he asked his father for a nightlight because he was scared of the dark. He took my ass up to my bedroom, locked me in the bedroom in the dark. He said, "There's monsters in there, son. Good luck. See you tomorrow." The influencer recalled adding that he stopped being afraid of the dark. It's not difficult to draw a line between Emery's views on women and his sons. In November 2011, Facebook post, Emory wrote that the external problem of the alpha male was protecting his flock of women. He added, "The times I struck a woman in passion, I never left a mark, no trace, hyper control, super control of the human animal. They still love me." He did not specify whom he had hit, but his approach to romantic and interpersonal relationships left little to the imagination. Okay, so here's a quote in this article, and I didn't even see this one. It's the Aston Martins that are like the most confusing thing trying to piece this puzzle together was how I stumbled into like a whole bunch of other stuff. But even in this article, there's one. That was quite an odd thing because it was a one-bedroom flat with an Aston Martin DB sat outside. That led to the origin of Andrew's famous nickname Top G. Okay, now I just wanted to say that because I saw Aston Martin again. Okay, and this is way back. The Tate brothers' fighting careers were closely followed by their father, who was then traveling to Europe frequently for chess tournaments. He proudly posted about their kickboxing careers on his Facebook page, saying the brothers were pound for pound the best and that destruction itself rode in Andrew's fingertips. Through the 2010s, Emory was also vocal online about politics, hitting on some of the controversial issues that would dominate the culture wars in later years. His response to an April 2012 BBC story about transgender competitors in Miss Universe was that it gave him a warm, tingling feeling right in my fist. In July 2015, Emory wrote a Facebook post saying that the accusations against Bill Cosby were from people with drug addictions in search of a payday. One pill and poke from Bill, and the whole story is of a damsel in distress. He wrote, "How is this, then, R word, when all of Hollywood was high as a kite?" Many of the themes of alpha masculinity and feminine submissiveness that Emory articulated online were eventually taken up by his sons. So too was his rhetoric style. Emory frequently referred to the movie The Matrix. You guys, look at this. Emory, his father, Okay. Now, when the Common Sense Skeptic did their videos back in the day, they said the first time Andrew mentioned the Matrix was after he was arrested. That is not true. Like arrested in Romania. That is not true. The Matrix has been a theme all through his life. I have found him also talking about it like way before that. Okay, so that's another theme. So chess, misogyny with his father, and abuse, belts, choking is a theme. The Matrix, the Aston Martin is a weird theme, but okay. And his sons would later refer to the Matrix as a shadowy establishment seeking to crush them. Emory also had a name for his epigrams, Tateisms, a phrase that Andrew would later use to describe his own philosophies. Andrew and Tristan's aunt Elizabeth said that the mindset of Emory and his sons differed from the approach of the rest of the family. Okay, in 2010, Emory moved to the Bay Area where he taught chess to school children. He spent time with one of his sisters who had moved there for her academic career and her son, Luke, Lias. Now, I think this is the cousin that moved to Romania to live with the brothers. Okay, so he was always drunk, driving around, living in his car when he was writing a lot of these Facebook posts about all the women he had and all this stuff. So it's kind of funny. Emery made a change in 2014, giving up drinking for a time. His consumption had been making him increasingly volatile, and his daughter Janine pleaded with him to be sober at a family wedding. He got into fights because he had too much to drink. Sometimes it would be because he would totally embarrass people in a way that could be off putting. Toward the end of his life, Emory was in bad health. He died of a heart attack on October 17th, 2015, at a chess tournament at the age of 56. So he was literally playing chess, you guys, when he died. Andrew praised his father to Chess Life magazine, saying he was afraid of nothing, not even death. He was an alpha male in all respects. Okay. Put this article away for now. Okay, the family relocated to Eckhart, Indiana to be close to Emery's mother. The brothers, I'm reading from the New Yorker now. The brothers spent hours playing around their grandmother's house, climbing trees, building forts, and racing through cornfields. But their home life was fraught. Emery drank heavily and was prone to terrifying rages. Tristan told me that if he stepped out of line, his father beat him with a belt, sometimes whipping him until his skin striped red. Andrew has described lying awake at night in terror. I must have been the most awake child on earth, he said. I was so afraid of the beatdown. In his telling, this violence was an essential part of becoming a man. I can't wait to kick my kid's ass if he gets fresh, he said. In Indiana, Emory worked low-wage jobs at McDonald's, a car wash, a park, but funneled his ferocious intellect into chess, often staying up at night, drinking and practicing variations. He started leaving the family to play tournaments around the country. He would arrive by bus wearing his trademark trilby and hustle for spare dollars in chess parks. A dazzling attacking player, he became a folk hero on the circuit, bringing flair and swagger to chess, often seen on the basketball courts. The chess writer Daim Shabazz noted. But he lacked the discipline to reach grandmaster level where serious winnings kick in. As smart as my father was, chess doesn't pay, Andrew said. He also loved gambling, women, and booze. So you add all of that up, we were very, very poor. So I want to show you guys take a break from articles and reading really quick and show you guys some of the videos I have found of him talking about his father.
Did you ever see him fight?
So my father, I have a saying, which is my most famous saying. I said at the end of the final video, my unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. And for the people watching, it means unmatched perspicacity, your ability to perceive and understand the world, pay attention to things and take in all of the different variables, pay attention, because a lot of people don't. Coupled with indefatigability, the ability to never become tired, makes you a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. So if you pay attention to everything and you analyze the chessboard correctly and you never give up, it doesn't matter if you're trying to climb Mount Everest Doesn't matter if you're trying to escape a social media ban. You're a dangerous guy. He doesn't quit, and he pays a bunch of attention. That's a guy you don't want as an enemy. And my father said that. I heard my father say that. The story behind it is we were in Detroit. My father was a world level chess player. He was an amazing man, but he was, to a degree, a flawed man, let's say. He liked to gamble. My father's attitude towards life is something I've also adopted, because I've even said it myself. I either want to be filthy rich or flat broke. I feel like slavery's in between. And I said to my brother when we had no money, let's just move to Thailand. Let's just move to Thailand and fight and just live on $50 a day and just run around on the beach and have our time back. Like, what are we slaving away a job to pay the rent and then we're broke? I'd rather be, I either have to feel like I'm going to make it or just quit capitalism.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in between. And my father was the same. So he won a chess tournament, a low level one. He made like $3,000 or something. And he said, listen, son, the rent's paid and I either want 100 grand or nothing. It's just who I am. So we went to the casino, lost all the money. Casino's a bad place to go and try and get rich, but that's my dad. Lost all the money. So then we were in Detroit and we were hustling in a park. My dad was a chess park hustler. He'd go into the parks and he'd sit down and say, you all get 10 minutes. I get a minute on the clock. And he'd play 10 games simultaneously while they all had 10 minutes each. And he'd have a minute. And he'd sit there and just smoke them all for money, right? And take all the money in. So, and we'll talk about world level chess players, because I'll make it clear. I do not have the intellect to be a world level chess player. Even though I have the genetics, it's something you're born with. It's kind of like being a human calculator. It's something in your brain. You can't train. It's like learning to sing. You can learn to sing, but you're not going to be Mariah Carey unless you're born with it, right? The way his mind worked was a different level of intellect, and I don't possess it. And that's a blessing and a curse, because I'm better socially than he was. He was not very sociable as a person. And in these high-level chess tournaments, a lot of them are not very sociable people. And we can talk about that at length, but so he made some money and we went to a gas station in Detroit. And I remember this vividly. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I went to the back, to the coolers. I opened to get a drink and I heard all this noise. And when I turned around, my dad was fighting 3 men. And I don't know how the fight started. I don't know where it came from. He had one of them up against the door and he had him up like this and he was biting his face. And the other 2 are punching my dad in the back of the head. And I'm a kid. And I just stood there like, the fuck? And the Korean guy behind is shouting, stop, 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 stop. And I'm standing there and I didn't know what to do. So I kind of went to walk over. And although my dad was getting punched, and although he was biting this guy, I remember him turning to me and saying, stay there. And went back to biting the guy. I don't know the fuck. To this day, I don't know how the fight started. Korean guy came around the back, kind of got in the middle. The guys went out, they threatened to kill him. We're going to fucking kill you, like gangbangers. We're going to fucking kill you. My dad had blood all over his face, some from the guy, some from him. His eye was black. His eye socket got fractured. His eye was closed. His bumps all back head to that. So we stood there, and the Korean guy started panicking, saying, "My store damaged. My store. Wait, police. Wait, police. Wait, police." And I think my dad was a bit disoriented. He never went down, but I could tell he was a bit dizzy. So my dad stood there, and he stood like this, like in like military position, stood in the corner of the place, and we waited for the police officer to come. And the police officer came and start doing reports, ask what happened, start talking to reports, etc. And the police officer said to my dad, "So you fought these 3 guys?" He goes, "Okay, well, what's your job?" My dad said, "I'm a chess player." And the police officer said, "Well, maybe you should have been something else." And my dad said, "My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor." I remember him saying that was his answer to the police officer. And the police officer was like,
"Yeah, how do you spell perspicacity?"
"Okay, bro."
Unfatigability.
He wrote it down.
Yeah.
And that was a saying that my dad started using then on after, and I adopted. So that's the only time I ever saw him fight.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch the entire podcast, click over.
Very interesting. What do you guys think about that story?
Yeah, but I want to kind of stay on your childhood for a little bit as we kind of move through your life, because I mean, like, the whole point of this playlist is really, we're talking about playing to win in life, not playing not to lose. And I try to look for people that are interesting, that have opinions. They've obviously done something of importance and impact in their life. And you know, a lot of guys I hear today complaining on social media about how they don't have an upper hand, they don't have a leg up, they were raised in a single mother household, they didn't have a dad around, blah, 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 insert, you know, victim mindset mentality. You know, so your folks split when you were 11, 12 years old. Why did they split, by the way?
So my dad was, I believe I had the greatest dad in the world, but he was a part-time dad in regard to the fact that I saw him, even when we lived together, I saw him maybe once a week. I believe, and as much as this is contrary to the manosphere and stuff, I believe a father can be a fantastic father one day a week. I believe a mother's job is the sustenance, the food, the basic shit. But the mindset installation is from a man. And I believe that if he's powerful enough and capable enough, he can do that in 1 day a week. That's how often I saw it, you know? So that was enough for him to do what he did. He was a professional chess player. He was constantly traveling the world, drinking, playing chess, fucking girls, doing whatever he wanted to do. And one day my mom had enough of it. So she wanted to go back to where she was from. She was originally from England. They moved there together. They split up. She wanted to go back to England. So that was it. And I went with her. So my dad didn't at any point, there was no big battle. There was no big fight. There was no custody or nothing. He said, you're the oldest man. You got to look after her. You have to go. Go. And I'll see you when I see you. And it is what it was. So
did you see him much when you guys went over to the UK?
Once a year, once every couple of years, maybe. But we spoke all the time. We spoke all the time. Up until his death, we spoke every single day. And like I said, I truly believe that a man's presence can be felt in many forms. I always felt like I had a father. I always felt like I was learning. I always felt like I had guidance. I never, this whole idea that I need to be with my kid every day or he doesn't have a dad, I think that's complete bullshit. And it also depends on how good you are as a dad. I mean, my dad had such a presence. If when we were living in England and he lived in America, if my mom said, I'll tell your dad, I'd still be scared. Well, the guy was on the other side of the ocean and I'd be like, whoa, okay, I'm going to be good. Because I know in 7 months he's going to turn up, and that's like God above. Like that's how much I respected him. So he still did he still had his influence and did his job remotely, and I believe a lot of fathers can do that if they're capable enough.
Yeah. How did, so what were your teen years like without your dad being around that much? Like, did your mom find another guy? Did she bring a stepfather into the house? Did she just stay single the entire time?
Okay. What do you guys think about that? I mean, there's just the way that he talks about his dad. I have clip after clip after clip of things that he's said about his father. So on the same video,
homeless, blah, blah, blah. I have every excuse to be a delinquent or an idiot or broke or soy or whatever. And I understood the world enough from a young age to know, no, I don't want to be that way. So,
how did you figure that out? Like, what was the influence for you? Like, most people will default to sulk, and I get a feeling it's more like a function of society today, just the way that we've been. I mean, people have been bred to rely on the state, to sulk, to have a victim mindset because they think that they'll get what they want by whining. But why did you lean more into let's go do some work, let's learn combat sports? If chess is not available, you know, for me to compete in, I'm going to go do this instead. Like, why not just sit around and pick your nose and cry?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of important lessons from my dad in the days I lived with him, but one of the things he was very, very good at, he had a few fundamental themes throughout our when we lived together throughout my childhood, and one of them was about excuses. So if I lost a chess game, for example, there was a chess tournament. It was 7 hours drive. We drove 7 hours. We stayed up all night. I stayed up with him. I played chess in the morning. I lost. I only had 2 hours sleep. And when I lost, I said, oh, because I was tired. And my dad made a very big point of saying, look, it doesn't matter if you were tired. Your excuse has fucking nothing to do with the win or the loss next to your name. You've lost now. No one's going to say he lost, but he was tired. They're going to say you lost. And this is the truth about excuses in general. Any excuse you can fabricate. Nobody cares. The universe doesn't care. Did you win or did you lose? Life is binary. Did you survive or not? If you come at me and say, oh, I'm fat because X, Y, Z, the girl in the club isn't going to be like, oh, well, he's out of shape, but it's okay because X, Y, Z. You're just fat. It's binary. Life's binary. So you have to make a conscious decision. Excuses don't exist. They don't have any weight. They don't matter to anyone else. So why should they matter to you? And as soon as you realize that all that matters is the result and you have to be binary about your decisions, then you're going to start throwing all that crap away. And I understood that from a very, very young age. So even when I was a teenager in England and I decided I wanted to be successful, I didn't sit and go, I want to be successful, but I'm in a single room in a homeless hostel, single mother.
okay, so there's that. And then I have we're going deep here because this stuff that he learned from his father, I will be able to show you as we go forward in this timeline how he applies that to the people in his life, including the women.
Okay, so yeah, I am half English, half American. My father was in the Air Force. He was based at Chick Sands in the UK. He met my mother.
They were fortunate enough to have this perfect child you see in front of you. I have a brother and a sister. We moved back to America, and I lived the first 10 years of my life in the United States. And my father was a chess master. That was his job. After he retired from the Air Force, he's a professional chess player. So I grew up around professional chess players, which is kind of an unusual climate to grow up in, because you're growing up around all these ultra intelligent, semi-autistic, they're weirdos, right?
Yeah.
You can't be that good at chess and be normal, right? They're like human calculators. They're all a bit strange. And you have ex-KGB members and like math nerds, and it's just a very weird kind of climate. And my father was a chess master, but my father was very unique because my father was also a professional wrestler and had physicality. So you have like a bunch of dorks. Then you have my dad, this big black dude, and he's like competing in the chess world. So
Okay, so I looked up about his dad being a professional wrestler. He was not a professional wrestler, but he was a wrestler in high school. So he really exaggerates when he's telling stories on podcasts. And that's another reason why it was so hard to track everything down, because there's so many different stories that like have slightly different details or time periods, and or things are exaggerated or told in a way that you don't really know what they're talking about. And so I think I have figured most of it out on a pretty decent timeline of what's going on, but it was difficult.
I grew up in a very kind of strange world, and I was a professional chess player. I was on my path to being a professional chess player. At the age of 5, I was the state chess champion for Indiana, and I was the best ranked player under the age of 10, and I was on my way. So I played chess for the early part of my life. And then at the age of 11, my mother and father split up. My mom took me back to Luton. Great place. Lovely. Mm-hmm. So from the age of 11, I grew up in Luton. So that's the very beginning of the story. And a lot's happened between now and then, and here I am. So
how was that breakup for you? Do you think that's what made you into the man you are today, with women and all the shit that you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. And a lot of people talk about how stressful it was that their parents broke up. And I mean, obviously I was very, very young. I don't think I was necessarily too upset by it. You know, I was still, my father was very realistic with me, and he said, look, I'm still going to see you, but you're going to England. It is what it is. So I don't think I was particularly upset by it. I definitely wouldn't say I was traumatized by it, but it did alter my life trajectory because I lost my chess coach. Up until then, I played chess 3-4 hours a day. It's all I did was chess. When we left, not only is there no chess scene in England like there's in America. In America, there's lots of chess in the schools and these kind of things. There's no chess scene. Plus, I had no coach. So for a while, I was kind of lost, I would say. I had 4 hours free a day that I never used to previously have. And I mean, I didn't get into too much trouble or too much mischief, but I was certainly a bit, how can I replace this thing I used to do all of the time?
What did you replace it with?
I ended up replacing it with fighting.
Yeah, from a young age?
From around about 15, 16, I started kickboxing. And I think that
Okay, so this is another discrepancy in the story. So the main story that's most reported on and most said by him is that he started kickboxing at age 17, which would be 2005, which is why I put 2005 on the timeline. But there is some discrepancy where sometimes his coach says that he was like 15 or 16, and sometimes he says he was 15 or 16. So he might have went in there a couple of times and he wasn't putting his all into it until he was 17, or I don't know. There's so many discrepancies in the stories.
Fighting and chess are extremely similar. To me, they aligned. They fulfilled the same gaps in my psyche, right? People always say, how did you go from being a chess player, which everyone sees as geeky, to a kickboxer? And I said, well, chess is one-on-one battle, right? That's all it is. There's no luck involved. There's no team. There's no wind that can blow the ball. There's no, it's one-on-one. It's a fight. If you lose, you messed up. And fighting feels the same for me. So for me, I thought, well, okay, I can't learn chess well enough without a coach. And I can't find a coach in the UK who I trust to teach me chess, but I can find a coach who can teach me to kick people's ass. So that's kind of how it started.
How did you end up going through the ranks and winning world titles?
Okay, and then on the same podcast, towards the end,
in the world today are going to have those distraught days we were talking about earlier. Something shit's going to happen to them. Their family's going to be in a car crash. As long as that shit ain't happening to me, I am smiling. You cannot depress me. You can't piss on my Cheerios.
All the material stuff, like all the cars, the $4 million cars, the penthouses, all the girls. Like, when you're achieving all that, and when you're doing all that, how does your dad ever come into your mind and think, fuck me, I would give all this up just to spend another day with him?
1000% I would. Not even fucking close. It's not even close. I'd give up absolutely everything to be with him. But you know what's funny? I'll tell you a story about his funeral. My dad died when I was in Romania, and I had just moved my business from London to Romania, and I was in this apartment with 6 girls, and we were supposed to work, and I just bought all.
Okay, so that rest of that story we're going to get into later because that's later in the timeline. But I wanted to show you that part where he said, I would give up anything, all the stuff that I have now, to be with my dad. Now, let me go to X because their lawyer has been saying and doing the craziest thing, and they have all these people that will post all this ridiculous stuff for them. So I saved a couple of things. Okay, so this is what they do every time he's in jail, which hopefully this time will be indefinite, right? Okay, so let me pull this up. Every little boy looks at his, so this is his lawyer, posted this recently while they're in jail. Every little boy looks at his father as a hero. For Andrew, that was unquestionably true. So they're doing this because they're trying to make everybody feel like extremely bad. They're posting that he has kids and videos of him with his daughter and like all, all this stuff, right? For Andrew, that was unquestionably true. His father was his protector, his chess teacher, and the person preparing him for the world. Then he lost him. When I was in America, my life was chess. My dad was a chess champion. I was very good. Then I lost my teacher. My life changed. Chess stopped. I had to become a fighter. I didn't ask for this. I didn't have a choice. I have to fight. All I know is pain. I am ready to kill. Listen beyond the final words, and you will hear the heartbreak beneath them. Andrew has always spoken in absolutes because in his mind, life demanded absolutes. Fight or surrender, win or disappear. He went from the protection of his father's presence in America to the projects of England, where he fought and clawed his way out. That all or nothing nature is why you know his name today. It's also what made him controversial. But before the fame, the money, the statements that shook the internet, there was a broken-hearted young man trying to understand the world without his hero. Look at his face when he says that changed my life quite a bit. There's no performance in that moment. There's only loss. Andrew's message to other broken-hearted young men comes from the deepest part of his soul. Your pain does not have to be the end of your story. Andrew went on to become a 6-time no. Okay, yeah, maybe I don't know if this is true. It's all very confusing. I tried to look in this too. I don't know if it's that many. It could be. I don't know. Refuse to quit, become someone extraordinary. So this is in, let me see the timeline. Okay, so I think this is in 2011 when he did the Gladiators reality, Infusion reality TV show.
Short minute and a half. My name's Andrew Tate. I'm 24 and I'm representing the USA. It feels great to be part of Infusion. I think it's a really good opportunity. It's good to see lots of different people from different countries and see all the different styles they bring with it. So I'm looking forward to the entire tournament.
I am dual nationality. I'm both English and I'm American. My dad is American and my mum is British. My dad was based in the UK for the Air Force. He was actually in the intelligence services. He was a spy. Nowadays, if the American government needs someone to translate, they can hire a Russian who speaks English. In the 80s, that was obviously off limits. So they'd take Americans and teach them Russian. So they taught him Russian and he was based in the UK where he met my mum. He's also one of the world's best chess players, top ranked chess players in the world. So he's a very, very smart guy. My mum and dad moved back to America where me, my brother Tristan and my sister Janine was born. And then they split up and my mum moved back to England and I came with her. And that changed my life quite a bit because I'm named after my dad. Me and my dad have the same name. Andrew is actually my middle name. Emory Andrew Tate is my name. with the same name. And when I was in America, my sole focus in life was chess. I used to play chess 3-4 hours a day. I was state chess champion at 5. I had a high rating, and I used to compete with adults at the age of 8. I was very, very smart, very good. When I moved to England, I had no teacher anymore. So my chess game stopped, and I moved into fighting. And here I am.
First through to the finals. Short minute and a half of the first round.
Andrew, you kept your promise. I'm ready to kill. I don't do this for fun. This is not a sport to me. I don't enjoy it. I hate training. I hate fighting. This is fucking war. I was born for this. I have no choice. I'm in there to kill. That's it. Pain. That's all I know.
What about your last fight tonight? What's going to happen?
I don't care. Put someone in front of me. Put someone in front of me. That's all I have to say. I've always tried my best to fight lots of different disciplines: boxing, kickboxing, MMA, etc. That means that you're not, sometimes you make a few mistakes in one discipline that you can get away with in others. My head too low to avoid punches, and I got caught, Fair play to him. I'm not going to take anything away from him. I'm gracious in defeat. I hope he enjoys it, and I'll fight him again any chance I get, of course. I'm a warrior, and I'm here for one thing, so I'll let him have his moment in the sun. I'm not going to discredit it.
Okay, so those lights were like killing me, so I had to turn them down. I don't know. So before we move on, let's finish up the New Yorker. When Emory returned to the family after an 8-week absence, Eileen confronted him over infidelity. He walked out again. When you're older, you'll understand, he told Andrew. Your mother won't shut up. As the marriage broke down, Andrew rationalized his father's abandonment. You're a better role model to your son if you barely see him and live life on your own terms, he later wrote. Dad is a superhero, not a full-time carer. Don't set and become a bitch like the woman once. In 1997, the year Andrew turned 11, Eileen moved the children to her hometown of Luton, an impoverished and overcrowded municipality north of London. They stayed in a hostel for homeless women and children. It was a terrible place to live, Tristan told me. Eileen got a job washing dishes in a school cafeteria, and he remembered that her hands were always bleeding and cracked. Eventually, they moved to Marsh Farm estate, a housing project plagued by crime and violent riots. The Tates went to a failing school where they were bullied for their American accents and shabby clothes. Emory occasionally sent money, and the brothers would walk to a payphone to call him. My father raised me over the phone, Andrew has written. I was still afraid of him 3,000 miles away. Okay, and then I found an article on this place. 2 years before the Tates moved to Marsh Farm, there was a riot followed by a rave. It was July 1995, a summer of drought, Tory civil war, and 3 nights of anarchy in an estate in Luton. After a 13-year-old tearaway was forcefully arrested, 500 people attacked armed police with petrol bombs, bottles, and bricks. A school was set on fire, shops were looted, a police officer was stabbed, and then the party started. On Saturday night, as police patrolled and harassed residents, Exodus, a local collective, put out the message that a rave was taking place outside of town, hoping to lure the rioters out of Marsh Farm. It looked like Vietnam, one of the organizers tells me. We wanted to fix that, and by and large, they did. Just before sunrise on Sunday, he received a call to say that Marsh Farm had gone silent. But for the birdsong and the shuffling of riot police on empty streets, it was beautiful, he says. The ecstasy of the rave had soothed the disorder. Marsh Farm had been saved. But after the party, then the come down. By the time Andrew Tate moved to Marsh Farm from Chicago, aged 11, it was the worst area of the worst town in England. He has spoken about his brokey days on the estate, about growing up on welfare with his newly divorced mother and 2 younger siblings, and about defying the odds to become a millionaire kickboxing champion and the most Googled man on planet. He's actually the 8th. If Andrew Tate has an origin story, then it starts here. Today, the self-styled king of toxic masculinity is in Romania on house arrest, charged with R-word human trafficking and forming an organized crime group to sexually exploit women. To many, he is the man who said that women should bear responsibility for being. To his legions of young male fans, though, he is a Nietzschean superman whose journey and success is the ultimate lesson. Understanding his self discipline, drive, and ambition, and learn how you too can become like him. For them, his biography is gospel. English people are the most violent in the world, Tate said in a video last year, and Marsh Farm lends itself to violence. Tucked away in the margins of Luton town, the sprawling estate, now home to 10,000 people, is dominated by three 5-story tower blocks, their residents watching over a disproportionately deprived and unemployed warren that stretches for almost a mile. Crime was just an everyday occurrence, someone who grew up on Marsh Farm at the same time as Tate tells me. You had no choice but to accept it. If the other residents thought you were a grass or too nosy, you would be burnt out. Your car would be burnt. Your property would be burnt. You would have paint put on your house saying grass. I am told it was completely normal for petrol to be poured through someone's letterbox and lit with a match. Marsh Farm's Lee Manor High School offered little respite. When Tate arrived there in 1997, the school was in special measures and due to be closed. It was mayhem, says one of his former classmates. In one incident, a boy stabbed another with a pair of scissors. During another, pupils set fire to the art department. If their behavior was brazen, that's because they knew they could get away with it. Students would drive to school in stolen cars and then drive on the sports fields and start doing handbrake turns during school hours. Where was Tate during all this? Andrew, the friend explains, would be part of the crowd that was the farthest away and closest to the exit. He was, as he adapted to life on Marsh Farm, a shy, unassured child. He was quiet. He wasn't like he is now. I wouldn't call him a geek, but he wasn't in the cool group. Back then, he found comfort on the fringes, content with playing with his Pokemon cards and keeping away from the chaos as long as possible, which wasn't very long. He had an American accent, the friend continues, and everyone would take the absolute piss out of him all the time. He always used to say, "Oh my God," in a really strong American accent, and everyone would go for him. Then, after a few months, a boy started to tease Tate in science class and he flipped. I remember Andrew giving him a few punches to the face, the friend tells me. Everyone was like, "Effing hell, Andrew has lost it." After that, Andrew started to behave like a different person. He became a rebel, and that made a bit of a cred for him. Another classmate describes how he remembers Tate swearing at a teacher. He knew that's how to get respected, he says. That's when the change started. If you can talk the talk and walk the walk, that's when success comes. So Tate learned to swagger. He often describes how when his family moved to England, he became the man of the house. Clinging on to that high of that first fight, he decided what kind of man he wanted to be, one who gets what he wants. His friends describe how at around this time, they used to wistfully watch other residents driving around Marsh Farm in Lamborghinis and Ferraris, desperate to join the ranks. However, as we got older, one explains, we found out it was all bullshit. It was just people renting the cars for weddings or whatever else. So the Ferrari story is a story he tells quite often, and we will probably get into it, but not right now, because I want to play some of these because it's a story he tells often about how upset it made him when he saw a guy drive by in a Ferrari, and he said, "What on earth? What is that guy doing? Why can he have that stuff and I can't?" He figured out the matrix. Unlike the others, though, Tate clung to that dream, partying hard but also working hard to drag himself up. He worked on a fish stall, he sold windows and solar panels, and he even returned to Lee Manor High working as an IT technician before being fired after having sex with the head girl. So all this was around when he was 17. I don't know if he graduated from high school, he just kind of left. Then he worked at a fish market. Then he started and doing all kinds of odd jobs. He also worked as an IT technician for the school, and then he had sex with one of the girls, and so they fired him. He thrived. Meanwhile, and I figured all this out, like, the certain jobs he had and things like that, but he thrived meanwhile in Luton's kickboxing rings, a sport he'd taken up in 2005. So see, 2005 is almost always reported. There he was King Cobra, who within 4 years was ranked #1 in his division in Europe. But success in the ring wasn't enough. Unless it was garlanded with some sort of status symbol, it was meaningless. I still remember the day when he bought his Aston Martin DB9. Okay, so this is Mysterious Aston #2. Okay. I found this later as I was hunting down Mysterious Aston Martin #1. Okay, then I found this one. A friend says after Tate won 10K in a fight, that was when we started to call him Top G, Top Gangster, because here was a Marsh Farm guy who was renting a one-bedroom flat with his brother, and now he was driving an Aston Martin. He was just starting his businesses and he wasn't doing fantastic, but he wanted that look, and that's exactly what he got. So I don't know if this is the Aston Martin he bought after he started his webcam, because it says he was just starting his businesses. We have no idea when this was, but we do know that he bought an Aston Martin. Well, we'll get into the Aston Martins later. This goes on about a PDF file that was like a serial prolific bad dude for like years and years around the same time Tate was there. I later knock on Eileen's door, though she doesn't answer. Instead, her neighbor thrust her head out the window. Yes, his mom still lives in this neighborhood too, by the way. Let's see. When I visited the terraced house where Tate grew up and where his mother Eileen still lives, the road is empty, apart from a topless young man speeding a dirt bike up and down the cul-de-sac. He's always doing that, a neighbor grumbles. I later knock on Eileen's door, though she doesn't answer. Instead, her neighbor thrusts her head out of a window and demands that I leave. She tells me Eileen doesn't want to speak to journalists who twist the truth about her sons. So I post a note with my phone number on it. A few days later, a representative for Tate gets in touch to explain that he doesn't want to comment. Should we be surprised? Why challenge the gospel when it's already been handed down? Andrew Tate escaped Marsh Farm, and that's all you need to know. His story is about how to escape, not those who can't. Those former schoolmates, the victims of the PDF file, or the 5 boys lost, I find sulking around one of the estate's parks. The youngest of them looks 13. At least one was high. When I ask them about Tate, they laugh uncontrollably, almost competitively. Top G, croaks one. He's just saying how it is, says another. He's just doing his own thing, adds the croaker, before trying to sell me some drugs. Or what does Tate's gospel have to teach them? These lads spend their day staggering around Marsh Farm, looking for trouble and occasionally finding it, but that's about it. Not a single Lamborghini or Ferrari drives past, and if one did, like most of these boys before, they would gape and croak and then go back to doing nothing. There's no ambition, there's no hope. There are would-be rioters turned into zombies. It's hard to imagine them being radicalized by Tate, let alone following him out of their estate. But he's not their Pied Piper, and they're not his rats. Just boys paralyzed by neglect. A lost generation, perhaps, but one that has no interest in being found. If Marsh Farm is where Tate's gospel started, it's also where it ends. Okay. So I have on here 2002 that they began training possibly in the gym in Luton. And then I put on here starts competing as an amateur full contact. Now, he doesn't actually have a fight and that's recorded until 2007. Okay, so I am going to read from the New Yorker again. As a teenager, Andrew was dogged by a feeling of unease. I always had this sense that something wasn't quite right about the way the world functioned, he said. He thought of himself like the character Neo in The Matrix, restlessly searching without knowing what for. When the brothers walked to school together, they sometimes saw a Ferrari drive by, and Andrew became furious. He's hacked the Matrix, he said. How does he have 400 grand for a car? He knows something we don't know. Okay, so the Ferrari story comes up a lot in his many podcasts. Okay, so
it was good, but like I don't ever feel like I'm satisfied. I never like won the world title and go, yes, I'm the champ now. It's just like, okay, next. I was kind of always like that. I always had these aspirations. I've always kind of felt, without sounding like a crazy conspiracy theorist, even now to this day, I feel, maybe correct me, you're a smart man, so maybe this will make sense to you. Do you ever look around you and just look at the world and feel like, kind of like we're in the Matrix, like there's something missing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's just you feel it in your gut.
Yeah, something isn't right here. Like everything just seems so superficial, and I don't know. I was always looking.
Okay, so this is from 2021 in June. Okay, and you can tell he shaved his head sometime in 2020 to unleash the top G. He said it was like he did it on camera. But so this is before his arrest in Romania, that then this is way before his arrest, that then he started saying that the Matrix was attacking him.
Looking for this secret. I was always looking for, I wouldn't say happiness or contentment, but I was always looking to try and break out of the 9 to 5, just the normal monotony of day-to-day life. And for a long time, I thought fighting was my way out. I don't know what I was trying to get to. I don't know where it was going to lead. But when I just look at the normal life a lot of people live, that is just absolutely depressing to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing it. I'm not shitting on the normal guy. I'm saying you're a stronger man than me. Because if I was a normal dude working in Starbucks, bro, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that day to day. I literally could not do that. And I thought fighting will make sure I never have to do that, if that makes sense.
Did you ever find this sense of completion while you winning world?
Okay, so that's where he mentions the Matrix, and then
unlimited money, and you had buckets, and you took one bucket of money. Would you just take that bucket, or would you run back and get another bucket and run back and run? I couldn't stop. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up to go piss at 3 a.m, take a piss, and by the time I finished pissing, I'd be like, I've slept 3 hours. That's enough. And wake the chicks up. And more. I found the tap. Bro, if there was a golden tap that unlimited in the morning, back online, I couldn't get out of my brain because I saw that I'd replaced fighting, which I loved, with this. And this was my chance to escape the Matrix. Bro, this has been inside of me since as early as I can remember. I remember walking to sixth form college. I was 16 or 17 with my 4 friends.
Okay, so in England, they call college, or they call high school college, okay? And then they call university. So when he's saying, like, when I was in college, he's talking about high school.
And a Ferrari burnt past us. I said to my boys, I was like, man, how'd that guy get that car? And they're like, don't know. I was like, doesn't that annoy you? Like, why would it annoy me? Because we're going to school. Our parents are on council estates. Like, we're trying to scrape 20 pounds a week to eat. This dude has 400 grand for a car. Doesn't that aggravate you? Doesn't that show you that there's something about the world you do not understand? That you're missing something? And they're all like, not really. And they're all the dudes who are right now at home, 9 to 5, couple blowjobs, da-da-da. I was never that guy. I was pissed off for weeks because I saw some dude in his Ferrari. Do you understand? I was like, no, I have to. So now when I push my Ferrari, I'm like, this is the full circle. This is the universe giving me what I've always been manifesting. Does that make sense? Yeah. So now when people say, Andrew, why do you have 17 supercars? Because I have 17. I have every brand you can fucking name. I have 17 cars. I have over $10 million of cars. But because it was a car, these cars used to piss me off. So now I have to have them all. I don't even have to drive them. I have to have them. I'm trying to conquer the earth, my friend. Maybe I'm crazy, but this is what I'm trying to do. It's what I've always been trying to do. So I've never been satisfied. To this day, I'm making more money now than I was making in my cam days. I'm still not happy. But I don't judge my life.
Primarily male audience. Yeah. And a lot of them, they look for guidance. They look to some of the guests that have spectacular careers. A lot of them, are like, hey, I need a little bit.
So this was filmed on December 29th, 2001 on Your Mom's House podcast, which is actually really sad to watch because this guy was like going along really wholeheartedly with all the terrible stuff that Andrew Tate was saying with his wife sitting right there. And so when Andrew Tate was like, every man, all he wants is to be able to sleep with all these women in the world and as much as they want. And for his wife to be okay with that. And any man that says no is lying. And then this guy says yes. And then she's like, what? Like, anyway, this is, and about how women should be like subservient and shut the fuck up and all this stuff. So it was a pretty, and she just kind of like went along with it too. But I don't know. I found it sad.
The hell, like I'm a little lost. What's like your advice to a guy who's whatever? He could be coming out of university or in his 30s, but he's like looking for a little direction. How do you start off, get centered to become successful? You know, get money, get bitches. Like what would you tell them?
I can answer that question in so many different ways. There's like 10 different answers I can give. But I think truthfully, in the world we're living in now, I use this analogy a lot. Maybe I overuse it, but you need to find a way to some degree to escape the matrix. And I say the matrix because the matrix, the way it is designed.
And you're not just talking shit because you've actually done that.
I've escaped the matrix.
Yeah.
I've literally escaped the matrix in nearly every form. So any form of oppression no longer applies to me. I'm uncanceled. I can't be canceled. No, I can say what I want. My finances are secure. I've escaped the matrix. And when I talk about the matrix, it primarily applies to men because men are the backbone of the slave force. We always have been and always will be. And unfortunately now, if you're a law-abiding man inside the matrix, your future and the life that is laid out for you is nothing but depressing. You're going to go to school. You're going to get in debt. You're going to get a job. You're going to get a wife. Divorce is coming. You're going to lose the house eventually. Your job's shit. Inflation's outpacing your wages. You're going to work. No one's going to appreciate it. Now you're old and your life's over. That is the matrix for 99% of men. And you need to find a way to escape it. And I guess I was kind of fortunate from a young age. So I always knew that the matrix was coming and that the system is designed to oppress. The people who make the rules do not make the rules for the benefit of us. They make the rules for the benefit of the people who make the rules. And I knew that. And I think every person intrinsically knows that. Like if it's 4 a.m. and you're sitting in a gas station and a Lambo pulls up, you're probably thinking drug dealer or criminal. You're not thinking, oh, he definitely went to school.
Yeah.
No, so everyone knows this, right?
That's true.
So you have to find a way to escape the matrix to some degree.
But wait, let me stop you. When you say you intrinsically knew this, I feel like a lot of people would assume that somebody is giving you some guidance too. Like, did you have somebody that was, kind of laying some of this out to you, like a male figure that was informing you a bit?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have the most fantastic father on the planet. So my dad did make a lot of things very clear to me from a young age. My father was a chess grandmaster.
Yeah.
And he was a nomadic individual. So he lived in a car or in random hotels and floated around the world playing chess.
Man, these chess grandmasters are all like so smart that becomes like a common thing.
They're so smart that they're socially weird.
Yeah.
So like my father was socially strange, but he was a genius. And on top of that, he's like a 6'4" black dude. So it's very unusual, like a chess grandmaster, but he's also physically intimidating.
Yeah.
But he's also socially weird. So he's a kind of weird guy to be around.
Yeah.
But he was nomadic and he was just hustling. Sometimes he'd have to go down the local chess park and just hustle for dollars to eat. And other times he's beating grandmasters for 20, 30 grand paychecks. So it's it was an interesting life. And he taught me a lot about the fact that the system is absolutely broken. It's designed to oppress. And that the majority of people who stick to the rules are going to lose. I don't want to sit here on a podcast that goes out to this many people and encourage anyone to break the law in any form.
Of course.
But the idea of the law-abiding citizen has been decimated in real time. In the last 3 years ago, you could stand there and proudly say, I'm a law-abiding citizen. The last 2 years, if they have not taught you that being a law-abiding citizen is going to turn you nothing into a fucking experiment for big pharma, then you're an idiot. You can no longer obey the law. And I'm not saying you have to break the law.
Hello, everyone. So this video is sponsored by me, and I have a hub where you can support me in 3 different ways. Here is my hub. It's my merch shop on 4th Wall. The link will be in the description. You can join my community here. You can buy merch. And you can donate at the bottom, and I receive 100% of this donation when you do that, and you can leave me a message or ask me a question. Thank you to everyone who supports my channel, whether it be monetarily or with subs, shares, comments, and likes. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day. Okay, so that's him talking about the Matrix, which was obviously instilled into him by his father, right? And that he needs to live in the real world where he understands the world, which to him is that men are aggressive and conquerors and that they are supposed to be with multiple women and that women are not supposed to be with multiple men and that they have to be subservient to the man and that you have to understand the reality of women to get them to do what you want and to obey you, and that you have to understand the reality of the world so that you can live in the real world and not in the matrix. Okay, so this is from the New Yorker again. I'm going to throw up the timeline here. By 17, Andrew had left school and was working in a fish market, waking up at dawn to lug boxes of ice. He described being encumbered by a crippling perpetual boredom that yielded only to danger. Seeking a remedy, he enrolled in kickboxing run by a former special forces soldier. He enrolled in a kickboxing gym run by a former special forces soldier from Bosnia, then Yugoslavia. And that's what I mean. Like, there's also this Eastern European thread through everything. Soon he was competing, and Tristan started training too. Kickboxing is much more lucrative than professional chess. The brothers initially fed themselves on canned sardines and chicken scrounged from abandoned KFC buckets, but in the ring, Andrew exhibited his father's gift for showmanship. He called himself King Cobra, got a cobra tattoo on his chest, and developed a patter about drinking snake blood. In one post-match interview, he was red-faced and furious, fumbling with his mouth guard. "This is not a sport to me," he seethed. "I'm in there to kill. That's it. Pain, that's all I know." Now, this snake blood patterning is interesting because that is actually in. So, like, let's skip over a few things and go down here to the Ultimate Traveler. Now, remember last time I was saying I was unsure why they were calling him 21, and I still am a little unsure because as far as I can tell, filming was in 2009. So he would have been 22, but it could have been that when he applied for the show, or maybe like when it started, it was the very end of 2028. I don't know. But he would have been 21 when he applied, or when it started, or possibly it just started in 29 and they used the age on his application. And there's some interesting stuff going on in that timeline. Now, I got in a little bit of trouble for playing that show, but I will show you without playing it the parts where he drinks the snake blood. Okay, so him and two of the travelers, because the first boy left and then they got another boy that came in, and they were on just the boys together this week. And they went out to eat, food like at restaurants in this area, and they have snake food where they can sell you the snake meat. They kill them right there, chop them up, and then they pour the blood. They cut them, pour the blood into the cup, then they let you drink that. Then they cook it and you wait there while they cook it up. So here's the cobras, king cobras. And then that's when they put it in they're putting it in the cup and then they're drinking it. So Andrew, the other boy went first, then Andrew went. Okay. So when I saw this, I thought that maybe because he was super fascinated watching the snakes move around before they offed them. And I thought maybe this is when he started going by Cobra, because it was hard to find King Cobra on his fight listings at first. But then I eventually did. And also I realized that he has, which I didn't realize before. Sometimes I don't pay attention to everything, but you can't see it as good with this shirt. But later he wears shirts. He has already the Cobra tattoo. This is the original first one. Later in life, he gets like his chest just looks like a mass. Like he gets that covered up with, I guess, like the head of a cobra, but it just looks like a big black mass. And then he has the snake going down his arm later in life. So this show was really interesting, the stuff that happened on here, and I'm not going to get into it until we get to that on the timeline, but I just wanted to point out where the snake blood came from because I actually was able to figure that part out. Okay, so remember the KFC buckets and all that, because we're going to come back to that later, but they had to scrounge them from a KFC, which some people said was a lie, but actually found quote from the KFC place where there's somewhat of a legend around there, the brothers, and they're like top G, because okay, so by 17 he left school, started, so here it says 19 in 2025. So then he would have had to have started earlier than 2005. So he probably did start around 2002, 2003-ish, if he was 19 and 20 in 2005. Okay, but she says 17. Sometimes they say 16, sometimes they say 15. Now, the guy that he enrolled into his school is interesting. So he is Eastern European. Okay, so here is what I found out about Emir Subasic, often called Emir Storm Subasic. So Storm is his nickname. So he was born on February 5th, 1971 in Zurich, Bosnia, then Yugoslavia. He grew up mostly in Germany from a very young age until his late teens. Returned to Bosnia just before the war started in the early 1900s, served in the Yugoslavia People's Army, the JNA Special Forces, then fought with the Bosnian Patriotic League, Army of the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina during the Bosnian War from 1992 to 1995. He has stated he was wounded, shot multiple times. He's mentioned around 5 or 6 serious injuries that required hospital stays. He left Bosnia in 1999 and settled in the UK in Luton. He started martial arts as a child in Germany. He holds a 7th Dan in kickboxing and multiple black belts in other martial arts. He founded Storm Gym in Luton on November 1st, 1999. It is still running today and specializes in K1 kickboxing, Muay Thai, and MMA. He developed a hard military-style training system he calls Storm Style. Now, this sort of reminded me of Karate Kid, and even like with the Cobra stuff in my brain. When I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Karate Kid, right? He has produced numerous British, European, and world champions. He's the founder of the Super Fight Series Championship. He began coaching Andrew Tate when he was around 16, 2002 to 2003, and later coached Tristan as well. Andrew has called him the best coach ever. Subic has spoken warmly about both brothers, describing Andrew's extreme work ethic. He has continued to work with Andrew in later years. So I seen a video of him even on the compound in Romania, and they were doing, where you hit the hands and everything. And I'm like, he's even there with him now. So in the Wikipedia, it says Tate began kickboxing in 2025, competing as a full contact fighter under the nickname King Cobra while working in television advertising to support himself. His earliest documented professional fight is April 27th. I found a interview with this guy. So let's just take a look at that really quick.
Assalamu alaikum, people. Welcome back to another episode of Streets to Dean. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, share, subscribe, all of that. Yeah, today is a very special interview, inshallah, with a very special introduction. My brother Dowie, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring the mic closer. Okay. Yeah, so today the brother Z is going to interview my coach. He's also the coach of Andrew Tate. But more importantly, he's my coach. That's the main thing. That's the important one. That's the most important thing
You
for
can
me.
always fight Tate already.
Yeah, I don't think so. No. So he taught Amir has been in Luton for 25.
Since 99.
99, yeah. And in that time, he's also teaching me. He taught Andrew Tate to become amongst many other champions, a world-class kickboxer. So he taught him top-level stuff. But more importantly, he taught me how to go home. Okay. Now, if you know what that means, Amir knows what that means, okay, then that's okay. But if you don't, I'll explain quickly. If you get attacked outside on the street in a real world, yeah, no ring, no ref, no tap outs, no rules, there's a very strong possibility that only one of you is going home. This man taught me how to be the one that goes home. Okay, so that's what I have to. It's more important to me than a belt and a trophy and all of that. So inshallah, so that's just my my introduction of respect to my coach. And I'm going to hand him over into capable hands of Z, inshallah, and I'm going to let them do. Yeah. So I'm going to move the mic over now. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know. Inshallah.
Thank you.
No problem, bro. Pleasure, man.
All right, brother Amir. Salaam alaikum.
Salam.
How's it going? You're right, yeah? Okay, for those
The new fresh trim, as you see.
yeah, now you're looking sharp, mashallah. But for those who don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm Amir Sabasic. I run Storm Gym since 1999. We recently renamed it Storm Gym UK. We're based out of St. Peter's Church Hall on Dallow Road, just off Dallow Road, Harefield Road. And yeah, I kind of teach that martial arts since 99. That's it.
And what's your background? What's your ethnicity?
I was born 1971, long time ago, in a beautiful place in Bosnia, former Yugoslavia. I went there with like maybe 2-3 years to Germany, where I grew up, and I lived there for nearly 16 years.
In Germany?
Yes, in Essen, North Rhine-Westphalia, and I came basically back to Yugoslavia just before the war, as you do, and I went to Yugoslav Army, Special Forces, then obviously Bosnian Army, same Special Forces, and yeah, I was there during the war.
Yeah.
I wish it never happened, obviously, because we all lost a lot of family members. You know, I lost my father, my brother, lots of cousins, soldiers, everything. As you guys know, the genocide and massacres there and torture and rape were horrendous. Yeah, sorry. That was it was a very, very bad time.
Yes. And we'll definitely get into all of that, inshallah. But would you like to talk us through your childhood? You're saying you grew up mainly in Germany. So what was that?
Okay, so I am going to skip forward. I just wanted you guys to hear like him talk about himself for a minute, and then I'm going to skip forward to where they talk about Andrew, where they start talking about Andrew.
This topic, one of your most, if not your most famous champion, our now brother in Islam, Andrew Tate. Can you talk us through the first time you walked into that gym? Did you see potential in him, or you know he had to build that?
Actually, bless him. In the beginning, he was well, like we just used to beat everyone up, you know. So but he kept on coming back.
Okay, and, so because he said this in previous interviews that
I don't remember that.
You lot just bullied him. Basically.
I would never hit him. Yeah, well, you know, some call it bullying. If I pass next to you,
I'm joking.
I always low kick you because it's conditioning. After when you get low kicked a bit harder, let's say by me or anyone, and then like the first time it might be like, let's say from 1 to 100 is 100.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's really painful.
Yeah.
Second time is 99.999, but it's nearly 100, and you go, oh my God, it's still painful. And after a while, when you come down to 15, 20, and I mean, boys or girls, doesn't matter. And after a while, they're so conditioned.
Conditioning, yeah.
And I go always back to the Japanese kind of like samurai sword, the katana. It's not, they don't hammer it when it's done.
Yeah.
You go tap, 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 tap. So you go folded over, then and hours, days, months. So that's why you shoot a bullet and the bullet splits. Anything else, you shoot a bullet more or less, and it breaks the steel, correct?
Yes.
So it's like that, you know, and like, you know, take a low kick, shin block, like in training.
Yeah.
And with Andrew, it was basically his dedication to it, isn't it? The discipline. You could tell straight away on him, you know, like
serious.
We obviously clicked, you know, Isa knows. I don't like people to talk too much. Don't talk when you're training. If I didn't ask you something, why are you talking?
Yeah.
Or you talking, not working. I got much softer now, apparently. Yeah. Yeah. Now you can talk and work. Yeah, and it was a bit different because I was fighting as well, and then a lot of fighters. We had like 60, 70 fighters, man. It was non-stop. I mean, even to recent 2019, I went to 89 shows with the kids and adults and everyone. I don't know, 10 gyms that go to 30 shows a year, let alone that many. Anyway, he trained hard. You could see that he wants to.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes more important than him being good.
Okay.
Because at that time, there was way more talented. Andrew has that height and it's different build.
Yeah.
So, and then a lot of people would say for Storm, they're all tough and they all come to fight. And that's one of our main traits, really. And they are very well versed that they're fighters.
Yeah.
I have no allegiance to no style. And it's one of my famous quotes. I love combat.
Okay.
So if I look at you, I know what I can make out of you. And to make you ready to fight anyone, anywhere, anyone, any style, anytime.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, there was no like, oh, I just do MMA. It was you fight low kick, full contact kickboxing, boxing, even Muay Thai, MMA, K1, whatever. K1 came later.
Yeah.
So you just fight, and that's how it was.
Yeah. So I just wanted to take it back. So obviously, with someone like Andrew Tate, when he first came in, do you see a champion when someone walks into the ring into your club? Do you look at him like, yeah, he's going to be a champion, or does he have to prove or earn that sort of
not straight away.
thing? Okay.
It's kind of gradually built, but you can see that someone is they're trying really hard straight away. And even if they can't do it, you kind of, that's what you respect in me as a military person. Like you come to infantry training is different to when you move up to special forces.
Yeah.
Totally. So and he stuck to it. He kept on coming back. Kept on got improving non-stop, And one good thing with Tate, he has a very high IQ, and he learned so quickly.
Yeah.
And then like me and him, then obviously started doing some PTs with me early. He worked all night, obviously carrying fish and ice, and then we met in the morning, early morning, 5:30 training.
Yeah.
They used to time him to run home. Yeah, I used to be behind Barnfield College on the last when you drive down.
Yeah.
On the last little roundabout, the Barnfield College by the B&Q or whatever, home base in up to A6.
Yeah.
So he lived in Marsh Farm, so he had to run home from there.
Yeah.
And then obviously trained at night.
So you used to train twice a day?
Yeah. And then made him train.
Yeah.
So then the first fight, you could tell, again, precision beats everything. He was really good. And I gave it the name King Cobra because he's tall, he stands like very, and I kind of find it a little bit like that, but like if it suited him. So you could literally, you go swing for him, he's standing there, but him leaning back, the guns are staying there.
Yeah.
And then just talk. And it was very good.
Okay, so he says that he gave him that name because of the way he held his hands and the way he leaned back, which Tate says is the way that his dad taught him to fight. So, but this guy, like when he would stand like that, saw like a cobra, so that's why he called him that.
As obviously the record says, and look, Andrew got to a stage where he was the best fighter in the world at 85 kilos, and then later at 90, and like one of the best in the world. 85 at one stage in kickboxing, there was no one, And then a bit luck and stuff also, like for the big fights, like with some of the glory fighters, the politics involved, and it's hard, when you come, from like nowhere, and then all of a sudden you're someone, and he did well. And I mean, look, his the way he trains, he was always working, training, working, working, and he trained about 6 hours a day, sometimes more.
Yeah,
I mean, we used to sometimes spar from like 2 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, from 8 o'clock. So
that's dedication, man.
You can't beat that. And even nowadays, like I saw him recently in summer.
Yeah.
Like I think he was literally 8 hours just on a computer, flat out. Just goes a bit in his little gym, pump, does something, coffee, water,
Yeah. So you're saying from when you've known him, he's always been like that. Whatever he sets his mind to do, he's focused, he's dedicated.
And he stuck to his guns as well. He was never one he doesn't talk much normally. He didn't like when he was a bit younger. Later, more. Obviously, from us, it was more like we're on a mission, so not too much talking. Come, wrap his hand, prepare his hand.
Yeah.
Get him and start working. Pads, sparring.
Okay, so that is from the teacher. Now, when he started working there. He was working at the ice place. Like he just said, he was having to haul ice. It was the fish market. But he was also working in the IT. And I found confirmation on that.
The wheel. Your passion for cars started when you were younger. I mean, you see these things, you see a Ferrari. I saw a story that you put out once on your motorcycles, because you were in a bike set once. You had a Gixxer, you had a GSXR. Was it a 750, 600?
I had a 600, and then I had a CBR 600 as well, and then I had a Fireblade. I loved bikes for a very long time because it's cheap speed, isn't it?
I had 4 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So you understand.
If
you want real performance, they're cheap speed. But
yeah,
unfortunately, they come with the danger involved. I had 2 bad bike accidents, and I kind of retired from bikes when I started.
How old were you when you stopped riding them?
So I was riding illegally for a while. I was riding at 17, and in the law in England is you can't ride a superbike till you're 21. So at 17, you can have a superbike, but it has to be restricted. So I bought a bike. This is a really long story. I'll make it very, very short. I had this job. I was an IT technician at high school. I came out of high school and I came back into the same school fixing the computers. And I started fucking one of the students. So I got fired. But even though she was 16, I was 17. But because I was a member of staff, she's a student, blah, blah, blah. So they fired me. And when they fired me, they paid me to the end of my contract, basically. And I had this little bit of money and I bought a bike. I paid to have it restricted, and then I took the restrictor out myself. So at 17, I'm burning around on this 200 mile per hour super bike. And everything was good for a while until some woman who wasn't paying attention pulls out on me and just takes me completely out of the game.
Okay, so that's confirmation on the job at 17, working as an IT tech and also at the fish market and also training as a boxer. Then while we're here, because I just saw this on my notes, I knew these notes were going to be a problem because it's sort of all over the place.
There that I can have these sorts of conversations with. It's so weird to
entered my mind. This is my situation. This is my scenario. So I have to do what I can do, and that was it.
I want to switch gears for a bit. Talk about cars, bikes, that kind of stuff, because there's not many people out there that I can have these sorts of conversations with. It's so weird to me today as an adult, because I remember sitting at the bus stop as a broke 15, 16-year-old, looking at like nice cars drive by, waiting to catch the bus to go to work, thinking to myself, that's going to be me driving that car one day. And today, as an adult, there's not a lot of guys that like cars for some reason. I don't get it. I mean, there's very small niche communities, and they'll throw all kinds of money at it. You've got how many supercars you have? I think you said the other day something like $2 million worth of cars sitting in your front driveway.
Yeah, $2 million worth of cars. And it's actually interesting you say that, because I was exactly the same. When I used to see fast cars when I was young, it used to ruin my day. It used to make me angry.
Yeah, me too.
I'd be walking to college and I'd see a Ferrari and I'd be like, how does he have 300 grand for a car? I haven't got $30 in my pocket. That's all my money in the world. Like, I felt like there was a whole reality to the matrix that I was missing. There's some kind of hack. Because even then, at age 15, I remember this story very specifically. I'm walking to college, me and 3 of my friends. We see a Ferrari. I look it up. I find out how much it costs. And even then, I'm saying to my mom when I got home, if you work a good job, like, how much do you make a month? She's like, well, maybe make 3,000, 4,000. I'm like, that still won't buy that car. Like, how did this guy get that car? It didn't make sense in my mind. And there's a whole reality to the matrix that bothered me for a long time. And I think that's one of the key elements to things like success in cars and stuff. If you really want it, you'll find a way to get it. If you don't really want it, you're not.
You'll find an excuse.
You think an excuse. And I think a lot of the reason people don't like cars is, well, they'd love cars if they could buy one, but they'd rather pretend they don't like them because they don't believe they're ever going to be able to afford one.
There's a real loser mindset that shows up a lot. I noticed, like, there's this car clip.
Okay, so that was filmed in 2020 on March 27th. Okay, so Tristan's first recorded fight was in 2026. They started in earnest in 2025 fighting. Andrew's first fight was recorded Andrew's first recorded professional fight was in 2007, and he started his own advertising sales company. So remember in The Ultimate Traveler when they said that he had his own advertising company, and then what's going on? Like, why do I look orange all of a sudden? If it's my screen, I hate this camera. Something has to be done. Okay, so remember in the one episode of the Ultimate Traveler that we watched together, they said that he was in advertising and he owned his own advertising company. And I said, no, the only thing I could find is that he worked for an advertising company. So I fell into learning more about that because of the Aston Martin thing. Remember when something in the episode last, he said that blah, 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 back then I had an Aston Martin. And I said, no, he didn't, because he bought the Aston Martin in the end of 2016, like December 2016, because I have a video of it from the Hateful Tate. The Hateful Tate vlog series of that guy following him around. He buys a Aston Martin out of boredom that he says with his fight money, because it was one of the last fights he did, whatever. So then, and I was like, no, he didn't have an Aston Martin that far back. Well, so this Aston Martin and other car series was such a crazy rabbit hole deep dive that I then found out about the other that he started his own advertising company, which is wild. So let's get into that. Okay, so how I stumbled into this was I started asking Grok about the Aston Martin thing, because the article, when it starts getting into when he started his webcam business, the New Yorker states that he had started it in 2014, and there's even discrepancies around that. But in 2014, I mean, he started the webcam thing, and then within the first month, he made like 100 grand or something like that, and he bought an Aston Martin. Okay, so I was like, all right, that would be, 2014, 2015 time period. So maybe the Hateful Tate wasn't, recorded when I thought it was, but then I went and researched that again, and they mentioned things about celebrities dying, Trump and stuff. So it was clearly when it said it was posted was actually when it was. And so then I was like, okay. So I went down this search for the Aston Martin. I also remembered, so you'll see, I'm just going to go through my Grok chat log because it's kind of really interesting. So I asked, like, when was it filmed? And they're like, it was definitely 2016. And then I was like, are we sure it's not 2015? And then they were like, yeah. And then, so then I just was like, okay, look, did he buy an Aston Martin or did he already have it? And they're like, no, they bought it around the time of the filming of the Hateful Tate. Like, because I was thinking, okay, maybe I thought he bought it, but he was just picking it up because it was, needed work or something. And they're like, no, he bought it around the time of the filming. So I was like, okay, did he have one in 2015? And then it says, yes, they already had at least one Aston Martin in 2015. Reliable accounts, including the New Yorker reporting cited on Wikipedia, state that after the webcam business took off in early 2014 and they made over 100,000 in its first month, Andrew and Tristan subsequently bought an Aston Martin. And this Aston Martin was a second-hand Vantage convertible for around $60K. Tristan also told the story of them buying a second-hand Aston Martin Vantage convertible for around 60,000 euro with money from an earlier advertising deal when they still had relatively little cash. That purchase was earlier, but the more commonly referred to one tied to the webcam success happened in 2014 to 2015. Okay, so by 2015, they already owned an Aston Martin. Okay, then they bought the one that you see them buy on the Hateful Tate footage. Okay, so it's two Aston Martins. Then they also bought one earlier around 2011 with money from an earlier advertising deal. And then I was like, advertising deal. So I started going down that road. Well, actually, I was trying to find out more about the Aston Martin first. So I wanted to know if we knew what color the 2015, 2014-ish one was, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, we don't know really. And so then I asked, what about this advertising deal? Like, what is up with that? And it says it refers to two different Aston Martin purchases the brothers have talked about. The earlier one, the advertising deal, Tristan had described as buying for their first Aston Martin. With money from the e-cig advertising deal they did. Okay, so then they say the later one from the webcam money. And so then I was like, okay, I think I just figured something out. So then I went back to Shipwrecked, which I couldn't play on the last show, but I told you about them being on Shipwrecked now, or Tristan being on Shipwrecked. Now, I will not play that because I can't. It's globally blocked. Why it could be on the other channel that I was going to play, I have no idea. But I took some screenshots from it, and I also used these screenshots to ask Grok because I wasn't exactly for sure. But I didn't think this looked like an Aston Martin. Okay, so this is outside of like a brick home. And so you know how on reality TV shows, when they are introducing like a new character on the show, they like kind of do a flashback of like them at their home talking, and like, so he's at this place, and then it shows like the inside, it shows him standing outside, then it shows the inside, and it's got like cases with cigars and stuff on the walls and thing. And this is in 2011, okay? Then it shows him going outside and getting in this car. Okay. And I was like, that's not an Aston Martin, right? Like, and then it shows the steering wheel, right? And I'm not the best with cars, so I wasn't exactly for sure what this was. So I put those into, like, I know just normal cars. I don't know like sports cars all that well. But I knew that Aston Martins had the wings. And I thought this could be like a Porsche, but I wasn't exactly for sure. And then it says that is a red Porsche Cayman, most likely a 1987 generation around 2006 to 2012. You can tell by the round headlights, the specific shape of the front bumper and air intakes, and the Porsche badge in the center of the grille. And then I said, okay, well, this is Tristan in 2011. Did he have a Porsche? Because now I'm hearing they had a Porsche and also an Aston Martin, right? This is when they're supposed to be broke, living off KFC, et cetera, et cetera. And then it says, yes, multiple independent sources confirm that the Tate brothers already had a Porsche around 2009. A Rolling Stone investigation quoted people who knew them at the time saying they had a Porsche and a Ferrari. Now, I kind of wonder if these people were getting the Ferrari mixed up with the Aston Martin, like if they don't know videos or cars all that well. So I found the Rolling Stone one was behind a paywall, so I was able to find this article that quotes the Rolling Stone article. So, and while this is here, because I was going to bring this up later, but while this is here, do you guys see this picture on his compound? This is his signature thing with the knight, with the chess piece. Okay, this is on his buildings, his website, everything. It's a chess piece, a knight. Okay. And so I just found this, like, and as we go forward, I'm going to show you the chess that gets involved when he starts dealing with people more in his life, and how chess fighting was like chess to him, because it's very similar, because it's two people battling and there's no outside forces. The ex-kickboxer who remains behind bars in Romania is said to have called his former flame and her girlfriend bees after they pulled the prank. The woman who wished to remain anonymous told Rolling Stone she visited Tate and his brother Tristan at their home in 2009. She and a pal decided to put women's clothes on his punching bag for a laugh, pose by his Porsche, and do a photo shoot with his kickboxing championship belts. But she claims it backfired when he spotted photos of the stunts on Facebook. Tate, who the woman described as an exceptionally lame guy, became angry and threw insults at the pair, and they never spoke again. She told the outlet it was a bit sad. It showed me a different side to him I hadn't seen before. That same year, Tate took part in a reality TV contest, Ultimate Traveler, in which 6 inexperienced backpackers compete for €10,000. He left with an eye infection after a few weeks, but one source close to the production claimed to the Rolling Stone that he lied to the other contestants and tried to manipulate them. Another insider claimed he became furious at another competitor after they taunted him for getting paint everywhere. They added he seemed a little bit insecure, to be honest with you. Other insiders who knew the Tate brothers claimed Tristan acts like his older brother's lapdog, and the pair have a very odd relationship. Tate, 36, and his younger brother Tristan, 34, were arrested on December 29th amid a probe into R-word and human trafficking allegations, and have been languishing in a hellhole prison ever since. Much of his obscene $6 million supercar collection, including 3 Porsches, were impounded by the cops. Okay. Now, about this, let me get my notes for the Ultimate Traveler. Because while it's brought up here, might as well get into it. Okay, so episode 2, the new guy came, and so it was the 3 guys and the 3 girls off together. Now, Tate had said, like in episode 1 to the one guy he was with, that it's good that the girls are going together on their own because they will the dynamics between them will not be good, and there'll be like friction, and then we'll be able to get like one to be like on our side, right? So that one always votes for us, because at the time there was only 2 guys. So he's already being like, let's manipulate these girls to not get along, right? And it sort of did happen that way, because the girl, Chantel, I think that was her name, and the not blonde girl, the other one, were like best friends. And they didn't really like pay much attention to the blonde girl. So she was sort of, and throughout the whole series, she was treated badly by like everyone pretty much, except for like a few occasions. Even though she seemed like the most well put together and helpful. So then in episode 3, he gets put in Chloe's group and the new guy. Chloe's the blonde girl. Now, he had won Traveler Money of the Week before, like when they're in their circle and then they all separate. So he had the extra money, but he said, like, to the camera, I don't want to spend it on this group because I hate them and they're boring and I can't stand them, and my hate level is like 66% against these people. And so then he like was sort of rude to Chloe the whole time, and like did things that sort of sabotaged her in the episode and made her like cranky and stuff. And he was like, I will sleep in like the crappiest hotels just to make her miserable, and I'm not spending any of my extra money on like good accommodations and stuff like that. So then in the next episode, he gets in the group of Chantel and the other guy from England, like him. And well, all the guys were from England, but the guy that was there originally, not the new guy, they go with Chantel. And Chloe and the other girl, and with the dark hair, so Chloe's the blonde and the girl with the dark hair, and the new guy, they go on their own, right? And they actually have a great time. She gets along better with the darker haired girl while the other girl's not around, and they actually have like a pleasant, nice week and trip together. But Andrew's crew that week, he poisons, like, the whole time he's with the other two, he poisons them against Chloe. Oh, and that's the other thing. In the other episode, so he didn't have to spend the money on better hotels or anything, or with his to help out his group, the extra money he got, because he wanted to save it for when he was with this group he's with the next week, because he likes them better. He told Chloe that he lost it. He's like, "Oh, I sent my clothes to the laundry and I had it in it." So that's what they mean by he lied. So then he's with the group that he wanted to be with, and the whole time he's with them, before he gets the eye infection, he's telling them that Chloe is queen. Now he's calling her Queen Chloe, and she's miserable to travel with, and all she does is gripe, which is not true. And she wants the best accommodation, and she was trying to like use my weak money and all this stuff. And so he poisoned that guy and that girl against Chloe. So then he gets an eye infection, and like he wakes up in the morning and he's like griping about his eye, and he's like, "Oh, my eyes are like weak, and if I roll around and the pillowcase scratches them," and it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're a fighter, and if you roll around on a pillowcase or whatever. So anyway, he has to go to the doctor because he can't open his eye and it's getting like worse and worse. Then he goes in there and the retina is not good, and there's like a bacteria infection. So then the doctor says he really should go home. So then he goes home. And then when they all meet back on together without Andrew, the two people he's poisoned against Chloe are like mean to her and snarky with her at the group meeting. And then she gets put in the group the next week with just the other guy that was poisoned against her. And then he goes with her and he's like not talking to her for like the first day. He like refuses to speak to her and is just being like really standoffish to her and rude to her. And so then she like breaks the ice at like dinner, and she's like, "I don't know what Andrew said, but like, can we just, put that behind us and get through this week together, and maybe like judge me for yourself or whatever." And then they have like this amazing week. Like, they have the best week together ever. And then the next week she gets put with the Chantel girl, who just treats her poorly and continues treating her poorly the entire time because she didn't really like her from the beginning. And so Andrew, saying what he did, gave her an excuse to be awful and horrible to her. And then the guy that wasn't Andrew, but that was there from the beginning, won the contest. So that was the ultimate traveler. Okay, so let's get back into this advertising company, because this is what I found trying to track down the cars. So in 2009, when he was on the Ultimate Traveler, he had a Porsche and possibly a Aston Martin. Because it's uncertain exactly when all this happened. But by the advertisement, see, that's why I'm like a little bit confused, because if you look at this, okay, so if you look at this is the next timeline. The allegations in the UK go back as far as July 2010. Okay. And that's the dissolution of the first advertising company that they had. And then here, okay, so 2009, April 25th, Andrew won the ISCA English Cruiserweight title, and then he won the British Cruiserweight title in September. They have a Porsche, apparently, and still has advert company that Tristan works for. Okay. But then the advertising company that they created was disillusioned in 2010, and they made like another one. So let's go dive into that story, or continue diving into it like we were. Okay, so I asked Grok, how were they paying for cars like this in 2009, like the Porsche, right? And supposedly a Ferrari. They weren't rich in 2009. They were young guys in sales who stretched every pound and put things on finance. So they worked at an advertising sales company. Tristan has said openly in a real world clip that he and Andrew ran a phone. So real world was like their weird online thing that we have not nowhere near getting into and my mind cannot handle. But yes, they called it the real world because there's this whole Matrix theme running throughout all this. So that he and Andrew ran a phone sales office selling television advertising campaigns. It was commission based and cold calling, and this was TriStar. Okay, so they specifically mention having that Porsche Boxster car that was on finance. So somewhere in a clip, they've mentioned that. Almost every young person who had a nice car in the UK in that era, including the Tates, it was on a finance deal. You could put a small deposit down and pay monthly. A used Porsche Boxster in 2008-2010 could be had for a relatively modest monthly payment if you stretched yourself. And I just think that's crazy because we couldn't do that here in America, I don't think. So they had the kickboxing prize money plus the side hustles. So they were working as at an advertising company called TriStar in 2007. Okay. So here's the sequence of advertising companies. Andrew's first job when he was around 19 or 20 and in sales was a job as a salesman at a television advertising agency. One secondary source named it TriStar Television. He has said he broke the company's sell record in the first month. Then Andrew leaves and starts his own firm in 2007. After only a couple of months, Andrew and another top senior salesman, named in one source as Daniel Agbako Kofi, decided he goes by Dan, decided they didn't like working for the existing bosses, so they left and set up their own television advertising company so they could control it. And that company was called T2 Television Limited and was registered on the 12th of March 2007 in Bedfordshire. That's where Luton is. It was dissolved on August 17, 2010. The same secondary source says it turned over about $1 million in its first year, but it was run on a cash flow tightrope, using new deals to fund old ones, and lasted roughly 1.5 years. Tristan worked as a salesman for the company Andrew and the senior salesman started. In his own sales pitch stories, he regularly quotes his opening line as, "Good afternoon, my name is Tristan Tate. I'm calling from T3 Television." So the firm he was selling for was known for, at least to him, as T3 Television, almost certainly a continuation or a rebrand of the T2 operation after the former company was wound up. So they had one named T2, then they had another one named T3. Okay, now this is the big story and how they were able to purchase an Aston Martin. And I think that Andrew Tate tells a bunch of tells about this, where he skips over this whole part in some interviews, because I've seen some interviews where he's talking about an Aston Martin he bought and he's like, "Oh, I had $70,000 in the bank and or in the safe, and then we needed like this amount of money for something, and so I went and I spent it all at because like there's times where he mentions this like $60,000 to $70,000, but I think he might be equating it to this money they made from this ad that they sold. So the big e-cigarette advertising deal and the Aston Martin purchase happened when Tristan was 23 and a half, late 2011, early mid 2012. Now, I tried to like get that closer because AI always does that. So he would, when he was 23 and a half, it would have been January 2012. Okay. And I think this is really important to keep in mind because if we push it back to 2011, my theory that I kind of figured out on my own that we're going to get into here later will fit better with it being in January. And Tristan said he was 23 and a half. So 23 and a half would mean it was in January 2012. Okay. So by that point, they had already been selling TV advertising campaigns for years and years, Tristan's own words, making smaller commissions like 3 to 4K at a time on ordinary products like coffee or lip balm. So the company Andrew and the senior salesman founded in 2007 is the same lineage of business that Tristan was working in when the e-cig deal landed in 2011 to 2012. I found filing history on those companies, but I'm not going to sell them, or I'm not going to show them at the moment. So let me have Tristan explain to you guys what happened with this e-cig deal, advertising deal.
And the first time I ever tasted real money, we used to sell television advertising campaigns. We'd call companies that don't advertise on TV and we try to sell them a campaign. So my brother didn't like the guys he worked for. Him and another senior salesman started a new company doing exactly the same thing so they could be in control of the company. And I was working for them as a salesman. And me and my brother were the first people in the UK to bring an electronic cigarette onto television advertising. There was a bunch of walls. All these people wanted to advertise on TV. And we had this really good agent who was in charge of a process called Clearcast, which is checking the advertising standards and seeing if a product can be advertised on TV or not. And the company, I'm not going to say the company's name, they've probably gone out of business by now, was the first electronic cigarette company ever to be advertised on TV because we managed to bend the rules to get the advert through. A couple months later, so me and Andrew made a lot of money. I mean, to us back then, $35,000, $40,000 each on this big deal, this $1 million deal, and we were super happy. And we assumed that we'd made it. We thought, okay, no, we've killed it now because every month this guy's going to give us this much money. We're on $75,000, $80,000 a month now combined. So it's month one. We've got this money. What do? Let's buy an Aston Martin. Let's
How
buy
old
a
are
car.
you?
I'm 22. No. I'm 23 and a half. 23 and a half at this point. So I'm like, I know, let's buy an Aston Martin because next month we can buy a house. And next month after that, it's all good. Don't worry. So we take all of our money and we buy the secondhand supercar. And at 22 years of age, I had so much faith in myself. Obviously, I had faith that this deal was going to work and I'd now made it and I was going to be living good forever. But I had faith in myself where I decided, let's take the plunge and spend this all on the car because don't worry, we're going to work this out in the end. So we take this car from the Aston Martin dealership in Cambridge. It's secondhand, 5 or 6 years old, but it was a drop-top Aston Martin Vantage that we owned outright. No payments, no finance, no nothing. And I remember driving home with my brother in that car to our crappy rented apartment in a bad neighborhood. And I had the biggest smile on my face. And that may well be the happiest day of my life. And the saddest day of my life was probably 29 days later when Clearcast, the advertising standards agency, put a blanket ban on all electronic cigarette products on TV. I lost the contract, lost the deal. 3 months later, I remember looking at that car outside, not having money to put gas in it, and just thinking, well, that was stupid. But that was our, and then obviously because we had that car, we did sell it and we did have that capital. That $60,000, $70,000 was very useful for the kickstart we needed. But that was after years and years of selling TV advertising campaigns for coffee, lip balm, making $3,000 or $4,000 a time. But that was the first time I ever felt like I was rich. And in theory, I was. And it all went wrong 29 days after that. Yeah. We were I think that's the only electronic cigarette brand ever to run an advert on British television. back to our council estate in our bad neighborhood, knowing that we'd probably have to, fight off attackers at some point. That was the best feeling in the world. I think that was the happiest day of my life. And I'm pretty happy. I'm a pretty happy guy. Like, I love life. But that's probably my best ever memory. Yeah. And that's the first, great memory. It's the first time I ever remember feeling rich. Yeah, it was nice.
Then Tristan appeared on Shipwrecked. Andrew won his first ISCA World title in the Infusion Gladiators thing. They secured the first electronic cigarette advertisement. So all this is in 2011. Andrew competes on Infusion Reality Trial of the Gladiators. So the clip I showed earlier on X, I'm not going to pull up another clip, but that was from that show. Then with the advertising money, they buy their first Aston Martin. They lose the Aston Martin 29 days later. So, and then they're sort of like broke again, and maybe the advertising thing went out of business. And that is when I think that, and actually, let me check my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, moving on from this timeline. Okay, this is when things start to get really spicy. I mean, things really start going down. And I think I pieced together some stuff that I was confused about, and I will explain that as we go. But I'm pretty sure I have this timeline pretty narrowed down. Okay, so before we get too much farther into this timeline, I want to bring this up from the New Yorker. So this is what what Andrew's and Tristan's dad was doing in the 2011, 2012, 2013 timeframe. Emory was still traveling between chess tournaments, and his posts were interspersed with blurry photos of hotels and dark city streets. He wrote about drinking vodka at 3 a.m. and inhabiting a state between ennui and dejection. At times his tone was valedictory. I could clone myself. I would not, he wrote. The better versions of me already walk the planet. So that's talking about his sons. At others, it approached introspection. Many animals are immune to their own poison, he wrote in 2012. The toxic human realizes that his toxin kills even himself, toxifies his kids. Okay, so he was writing stuff like that. As Tate's fighting career gathered momentum, his father showed an interest. In 2011, Andrew won his first world championship, and Emory wrote online, "Destruction itself rides in his very fingertips." He also posted musings that seemed to provide his son with an ideological roadmap. He warned against enemies of alpha males, the matrix, and the insanity of the ruling elite. He mocked the notion of gender equality and argued that mature men should be allowed to have sex with pubescent girls. I posit that sometime after that deal collapsed, so 2012 to 2014, Andrew Tate was selling drugs, because remember this clip.
So when I was 24, 25, I sold drugs. Long time ago now. I can be honest and open about my past. I was a fighter, but fighting wasn't paying the bills, sold drugs, whatever. So I'm selling drugs. I didn't really like selling drugs. I didn't like the anxiety. I didn't like the idea of getting caught. I didn't like the violence, the stabbing. I have my stabbing stories already on Twitter. I'll put one of Tate's speech up. Someone tried to stab me. In the town I was in, Luton, the worst town in the world, there's a doctor's office there. Now, there's nowhere to park except for the doctor's office car park. Obviously, you have to be a doctor to park there.
Okay, so you guys remember that 24, 25. Okay, so that would be 2012, 2013. Now, we're going to shelve that for a minute because I'm not I'm not gonna tell my theory on that just yet. I want to kind of like solidify this. There's a lot going on all around this time period. So I want to sort of solidify it in our minds before I start breaking down each part. Now, in 2012 and 2013 are the alleged R word incidents of a woman in a relationship with Tristan. That's what I read out at the beginning of the series, and that is from the first investigation. So the UK had the first investigation, then they had the second investigation. The first one had to do with charges between 2012 and 2015 and that is for this with Tristan and for the two webcam girls that came forward in 2015 about what was going on there. So, and we read both of those. That's what those indictments, unsealed warrant requests, detailed those things. And there's more to it, but they just detailed those things. Now, then this is a very interesting one. So in 2012, there is a picture and it was posted in, this is what I was reading, like at the start where it's talking about their family. And I was reading from that article. This is in here. Okay, right here. So this says Tristan and Andrew at Supper Club in London, May 6, 2012. Okay, now this is interesting. We're going to go off on a little side note, and this is all just speculation from my brain. So this is a very odd picture, right? And it actually has a date, May 6th, 2012. And so it's not just like a random picture, it has a date. So there is a lot of speculation as to how Candace Owens' husband met Andrew and knows him since before he was Andrew. Now that can mean one of two things. One, it could mean that before he was famous, which technically a lot of people don't consider him being super famous until 2022. That's when he exploded and he blew up and he was on Tucker Carlson a lot. And his clips started being spread around everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. So it could mean like 2016 when Andrew started becoming a little bit more political and he met with Donald Trump Jr. at Trump Tower and that was in like 2016. And then he was maybe, ran into each other at political circles. And some people have speculated, well, maybe it was Tommy Robinson. Well, I looked into that thread and I couldn't find anything that really connected Tommy Robinson to, like, yeah, he's been political and stuff, but there's no pictures, no articles, nothing about him being around the same group circles that George Farmer was around during that time. Like there's no pictures of him with Nigel Farage. Like it just didn't seem like there was a huge connection there. And yeah, they did know each other, but like from what I could tell online, they didn't seem super duper close, not way back then at least. So then I looked into the Paul Joseph Watson angle because the very first podcast that Tristan showed up on was Paul Joseph Watson, who was definitely in those circles, right? But that was shortly before he met Candace Owens. And the way that him and Candace Owens tell the story, it's sort of like he knew Andrew for longer and they're like super good friends and stuff. So then when I saw this picture, I started thinking, okay, because it says London Supper Club. So I looked into that. Okay, so I asked Gemini, at first I asked, how could Farmer have known Andrew Tate from way back? He seemed to know him before he married Candace Owens. And then it said that George Farmer has publicly stated that he has known Andrew Tate for years, which often catches people by surprise given their completely different backgrounds. Their early acquaintances comes down to small overlapping nature of the UK media and London social scenes in the mid to late 2010s. So the London Social Event Circuit 2016-2018. Before Andrew Tate blew up into the global internet personality in 2022, he was a kickboxing champion who moved frequently through elite UK nightlife, fitness, and private members clubs circles in London. Okay, and then it said around the same time period, 2016, George Farmer, after graduating from Oxford, was working in finance in London and heavily involved in high-end networking events, political dinners, and private clubs. Okay, so those are tight-knit London media and nightlife circles. So they could have passed across there. Then in around 2017, with the Brexit and culture war dominating UK, a loose network of British podcasters, commentators, and media figures began forming behind the scenes. Now, this is sort of what we saw with Candace Owens and Paul Joseph Watson and all this, but all that seemed to come together a little bit later. And the way that Farmer was telling it is like he knew him for so long. So when I read about the elite UK nightlife, that's when I remembered that picture. So then I asked, what is Super Club in London? And it said, Super Club, the former Notting Hill venue from around 2010 to 2014, Super Club was a specific lavish venue in Notting Hill, an outpost of the original Amsterdam location. It combined fine dining, performance art, and nightlife, where guests dined on oversized white beds while watching live theater acts, aerialists, and DJ performances before the venue transitioned into a nightclub later in the evening. This specific establishment closed down on July 14th. So then I mentioned like the picture of the brothers in 2012 at that club, and I asked, would George go to this club possibly? And it said, technically it is geographically and socially plausible, but there's no public record or evidence confirming he was there with them. Here's how the timing and demographics align for 2012. In 2012, Supper Club was one of London's most fashionable, high-concept nightlife destinations. It attracted a mix of young socialites, university elites, and fitness figures and media personalities. George Farmer in 2012 was a 22 or 23-year-old Oxford University student and Bullington Club member. So remember when we learned about the Bullington Club and that it's like this crazy secret society club where they're just like wild and bash things and it's like pretty wild? Who frequently socialized in upscale London nightlife, private clubs, and dining spots during weekends and holidays. The Tate brothers in 2012, Andrew and Tristan Tate, were living in England and competing in combat sports and regularly frequenting London's trendy nightlife spots and VIP lounges. And then it sort of like summed it up after me asking some more things, but it said, during the mid to late 2010s, both men were building a very specific high network lifestyle in the UK and Europe. Farmer in high-level finance, political fundraising, and private clubs, and Tate in kickboxing, online venues, and high-end lifestyle networking. In those tight-knit private circles, it's very common for people to form genuine personal bonds before either becomes a household name or major media figure. It definitely makes sense why the connection felt so established by the time Tate became a major talking point in global media. If they had already met years before and had this actual history behind them. So I'm thinking that maybe they met in one of these clubs, maybe even this club. And so I have no idea. Obviously, nobody really knows, but that is a theory that I'm postulating. So that's that. Now, in December 2012, because he had the reality show thing ended in a fight. And that fight was a live fight in December 2012 in Infusion fight in Slovenia. Okay, so Andrew had a fight there. Meets Vivian, who is 15 and is a waitress, and starts a relationship. Now, he says he met her when she was 15 and he was 26. So he turned 26 in December 2012. Okay, so Slovenia is not very far from Slovakia. So I'm postulating also that after that fight, he went back to Slovakia and he met Vivian. Now, let me read from the New Yorker. And this is what I mean by his fighter. Something we were listening to earlier mentioned Eastern Europe. Then his trainer was Eastern European. He began fighting and making contacts that were Eastern European. And so listen to this. This is from the New Yorker. At the peak of Tate's fighting career, he spent part of each year competing across Europe. He often based himself in Slovakia, an elegant medieval city of pastel townhouses and Gothic spires. During one visit, he met Viviana Herskova, a high school student with hazel eyes and blonde hair who was working as a waitress. Tate said that they met in 2012, the year he turned 26 and she turned 15. Okay, so that would mean he had to have met her in 2012. Or I mean, in December, if he was already 26. And I didn't pull the clip, but there is a clip of him saying, I met her when I was 26. So I've heard that before. He had taken to collecting girlfriends on his travels, and Vivian became one of them. I had a girlfriend in Slovakia. I had a girlfriend in France. I had a girlfriend in England. He later said, do they know each other? Do they know about each other? No. Vivian was besotted with Tate. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, she texted him. I want babies and to get married. In 2014, when she turned 17, Tate summoned her to England. She left her family and went. Okay, and it is going to take a lot to get into some of this stuff because I want to get into the theory I have about the dealing and why he had to start the webcam business. And I want to get into the details of all that, which are pretty wild. And so I feel like this video is probably already pretty long. I never really can tell because there's a lot of me just looking for things in between so the running time never is the actual time, but the running time right now is 4:20. So I'm getting pretty tired and I want to be able to really focus on that portion. So on the next episode, we will go into this timeline like super deep and really get some stuff going with that. It's going to be really interesting. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like, comment, and share. And do subscribe if you are not. Have a good rest of your day, whatever time it is for you. And I will see you next time on The Eclectic Journalist.